Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me on Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNewsNeat on Twitter. You can find me on CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you have heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, from the home of the Dodger Brooklyn.
I was just listening to some Old Dirty the other day, so that's pretty good.
Shout out to Old Dirty.
Exactly.
ODB.
Exactly. And this, folks, is the Comic Book Chronicles, as was said. You can find at the Calls for the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast browser place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Calls for the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us all the 5-star positive reviews, please.
Yeah, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way, I keep hearing.
That's right. The Moet and Alizé.
And also, to round it off, you can find us.
You know what they keep? I was about to say, you know what they keep me, but I'm not going to continue that particular.
Yeah, we're not going to go down that line. But yeah, look, you can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit the little alarm bell button so that you get notifications that we are recording. And leave us all the good and positive reviews you can, please.
Do it. Do it. I believe that's that line from that movie, right? Yeah. Folks, we are going to go into a spoiler-free recap of She-Hulk episode number 5 because it just came out the day we're recording. So, we don't want to spoil folks on that. But we're going to start it off.
Broad strokes here, folks. Broad strokes.
Mm-hmm. And I think 8-70 is going to give the warning and the bell. So hit it.
Sure. So spoilers, the very lightest spoilers, because as we just said, this episode dropped the day of this recording. So we want you to watch this episode because it's a really fun episode. So spoilers in 3, 2, 1. They are incoming now.
All right, the name of this episode is called Mean, Green, and Straight Poured Into These Jeans.
And to quote Titania, ew. Even I had that reaction. I was like, ooh.
I'm surprised they didn't get Genuine for part of that, but
Oh, no.
And speaking of someone else who should have been a part of this episode, but we'll get to that in a second.
Interestingly, I was about to say, interestingly, we did not have any real guest appearances in this episode.
No.
Everyone has been, everyone that appeared in this episode was a recurring character so far.
Right. Yeah, and the one, as I was watching this episode, one particular part specifically, the one person I would have wanted has not made a live action appearance anywhere that I know of anyway. So
Awesome Andy.
Well, that too, but them too.
Okay, that's the second person.
Yeah, no, not yeah. I definitely want to. Wait, have you read? I know you're reading the current She-Hulk, but you read the.
Right, that's where I'm getting that reference from. But obviously now we have a Mallory book.
Yes. Oh yeah, we'll get into her one. I forgot her name in Hamilton, but one Renee Elise Goldsberry, the very beautiful Renee Elise.
That was Eliza.
Was she Eliza? Okay. So
No. I apologize.
Eliza was
That
the main one.
Angelica.
Right. There we go.
Angelica.
There we go.
Angelica's the older sister.
Right.
Because it's Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy.
And Becky. Yeah.
That's right.
So yes, she about to say she doesn't make a makeup. She came up last episode, but now she has gotten a little bit more camera time because she's involved in a case that is involved one Miss Walters of ours here. So.
Right. And ultimately, Jen Walters does the right thing that every lawyer knows, and that is to not represent themselves. No matter how capable you are as an attorney, you are told and taught to never ever represent yourself.
So I was going to ask you about that because I kind of wondered if that was actually a rule or something, or is just good common sense.
It's common sense.
Right.
It's definitely common sense. It's not a rule because you can be a pro se litigant and represent yourself in anything.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to hire an attorney, although it's definitely a lot easier if you have an attorney.
Mm. Yeah. Makes sense.
You know, even in small claims, from small claims up to federal court, it's much more. It's more advisable to have an attorney. Obviously, when you're in a small claims case or a small civil court case, it's definitely a little bit. It may not be cost effective, but we're getting off track just a touch. But welcome to our it is a legal drama, so we're going to touch upon some of those issues.
Right.
But ultimately, this case, this episode revolves around a case of trademark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting ploy and a plot device that I thought was an inventive way of creating tension between Titania and She-Hulk, because they're obviously not using the traditional Titania origin,
right.
Or they may be twisting it somehow because we're not 100% sure how Titania has received whatever powers she has, which have only been showcased or exhibited very briefly.
Right.
So we don't know for sure. That may be expanded upon in this show or another show, but
right.
We'll see. But ultimately, they use that as a plot device, this trademark case. And again, we're kind of not spoiling everything, but it's a trademark case that brings these two into a courtroom battle.
Right. I mean, if you saw the end of last episode, then you already know, it was leading up to this. Right. It was leading up to this anyway, So, excuse me.
Right. Now we find out there is literally snake oil being sold. Literally snake oil.
Indeed. And well, actually, so I guess you could say that's the A plot, and the B plot has something to do with let's say Jen getting a new wardrobe, but and a roundabout way of getting to that point has to do with her paralegal Nikki and the other lawyer Pug, who was shopping for some Iron Man 1s. Iron Man 3s, not 1s. I'm thinking of black ones.
Right. And unfortunately running into some bootleg merchandise, which just made me laugh. I'm like, why is it so stereotypical that the Asian person is selling bootleg merchandise? Come on, man.
Okay, so
I mean, I know that like one of the directors on this, Jessica Gao, is Asian. Right. I know there's plenty of representation on this show behind the camera, but I kind of I bumped on that just a little bit, but of course it's a front.
Right. So I actually didn't think about that till you just said that, but also I was kind of waiting and wondering because as we saw from the end credits, we saw a sketch of Jen and She-Hulk in court holding up an Avengers mug, and was wondering like, where is that even going to come into play? And that pretty much was here.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's so.
So, but yeah,
funny.
But as we said, that is pretty much the start of it, and that kind of goes into which we don't get to see, but Jen getting some new duds. I was also kind of hoping that we were going to hear some mention of unstable molecules, but I know that's not going to happen.
I was going to mention that we as comic book fans are it's so embedded in us. It's basically it's basically entrenched in our brains that the majority of the costumes that we see are made of unstable molecules, so that it takes a lot to damage them.
Right.
So, obviously, that's changed a lot when, because we've seen in the Netflix shows and some of these Marvel shows that uniforms tend to get damaged, because they need a reason to take off their masks.
Right.
They need a reason to take off their masks.
And sometimes they don't even need a reason. Sometimes they're just like, but yeah, most of the time, yeah, like Agent 70 said, that's the case.
Exactly.
Now, one more point I want to make before you say anything was because about this particular part. So there was a part where she's getting some new some new duds after finding someone to do it. I don't know if you thought about this, but I sure did. Why? I wanted so bad after I saw the scene to for a certain incredible character to show up. In that, let's just say,
darling.
Exactly. That was the only thing I was thinking. I was like, you could use Edna for this, and just make Edna. But I know it's a different universe and all that kind of good stuff and whatever. It was like I so wish that could have been the case.
It would have been nice as an Easter egg,
right?
If they had like someone mimicking, the mannerisms, the accent, even the look,
right?
Just in the background.
I mean, the person, the designer / person kind of was, but that's also a kind of a quote unquote stereotypical fashion maven type.
Designer type.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but I was like, dang, they could have used Edna right there. That would have been perfect.
That's funny.
So I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to add that, ultimately, one thing that we talked about just before the show started, in our pre-show prep, was the fact that this episode lacks a stinger scene. But it seems like in lieu of a stinger scene, we got a very big hint as to what may happen in the next episode, at the very end of this episode.
Right.
It was something in a box, and it's not Gwyneth Paltrow's. Oh no, I'm not. Did I really spoil that movie? Oh, what's in the box?
It's like 20 years old at this point.
Oh, at least 20 years ago now.
So,
at least 20 years ago.
And we didn't even say the name, but if you heard what was just played and you know what we're talking about, congratulations,
right.
You're old. But you know what? Yes, I thought about that, but I also thought, okay, that was going to be the stinker. Like maybe it was going to come in and be like, hey, we shop at the same place or something. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we're not there yet.
Right. So we got something in lieu of it. It just didn't. It didn't sit right with either myself or Roddykat that there was no stinger. It's kind of like, wait, why did the screen? Like, I don't know if you're watching it, if it's the same on your device. I have it on a Fire Stick. So I was watching it over dinner, and I saw it blink down, and it shrinks down into like a what's next.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes, it does that.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you're using a different device like on a PS5 or whatever.
PS5 does that also. Put it that way.
Okay.
So, yes.
So then at the end of the day, when it does that, you're just like, wait, what happened? Did I miss something?
Right.
And
because usually once go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say usually, the credits, the first credits will end. You'll get the stinger, and then it'll start playing, and then it'll shrink.
Right.
So that's what made me think. I'm like, was I chewing or something? Did I blink?
You blinked and you missed it.
Right. Exactly. I'm like, did I blink and miss it? Like I had watched like the bulk of this episode during the day, like over lunch, but I sat down and watched like the second half again over dinner tonight.
Gotcha.
And like I said, I really was concerned that I had blinked and missed it. So
now usually, once it's right, once you see that where it shrinks down like that, it's like, well, that's it. Because all I did was like, wait, that's it, because it was like, because I knew once to see that happen, that was it, and I figured they wouldn't have done. I would like to believe that they wouldn't have messed up. I mean, granted, I still kind of enlarged it back again just in case, but it was just doing the credits. So, like I said, normally, like you said, when it gets to that point, that's pretty much that. So, so it was like, yeah, it was a kind of a head scratcher for a second, and I knew I didn't blink because I was like kind of there on it. So it was like, huh, I guess that's it then.
Right.
So don't expect a stinger this time, or a tag, or whatever they call them.
Right. I mean, they'll probably surprise us and just go the rest of the way with them. You know, because this episode run is a little weird, right? It's a 9-episode run, so we're definitely past the halfway point. So I wonder if like 8 out of 9 have stingers, and just we happen to hit the one right in the middle that doesn't have one. We'll see. Right. I'm just, that's pure conjecture on my part at this point. But I think we've covered most of what this episode is about.
Right.
I wanted to echo something that I heard on I think it was the Ringer, the Ringerverse podcast talking about this episode. It's kind of weird that they use the dating episode as part of this episode.
Right.
And it's weird that they would have the like there's an aspect of both that episode and this episode that makes it seem like Tatiana Maslany would not get any action on her own, but she would only get action if she turned into She-Hulk, which I find pretty crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Dan Slott also for saying that on Twitter after the dating episode, because he was basically like, the last guy, he was like, this guy is the worst idiot in the Marvel universe ever, and then he ran down some examples, including Thanos, including Star-Lord with Thanos. He was like, nope, still worse. And then it was like, yeah, because like you were saying, it was like, yeah, like if you see She-Hulk, you dating She-Hulk, and she turns back into Tatiana Maslany, that's still, she's still a pretty woman.
You're still coming out ahead.
Right, exactly. Like,
you're still coming out ahead.
Right.
That is all I'll say about that.
Right. So I'm sitting here because I was like, and I was in agreement because I was actually thinking the exact same thing when I was watching that.
Like, I'm going to go Forrest Gump on you, and that's all I have to say about that.
Exactly. So the only thing I have to say in passing, because going off of something you just said made me think of something. What if, I doubt this is the case, but what if the tags / stingers that we've got are it, and we're not getting any for the rest of the shows?
Goodness gracious!
Like they're doing it backwards, like because the rest of the show, like every other show, we've pretty much seen everything near the end of the run of the series, and we started out with this one. So I'm kind of wondering if they're going backwards. I doubt that.
We'll see. That's all we can do. That's all we can say is that we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway. That being said, that's She-Hulk. Go watch it. It was a fun episode.
Yes, it was definitely fun. I recommend it. It's definitely one of the more lighthearted, not entrenched in the in kind of the dramatic storytelling that we've become used to as part of being in the MCU. Mm-hmm. But this show is definitely not that. The show is kind of a sitcom. The show is lighthearted. It's definitely in the vein of a comic book, and take it for what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not House of the Dragon. Right. It's not Rings of Power. I'll talk about those two in a second, because I don't think Roddykat is up on either of them.
Nope.
So I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're looking for something fun, you can't go wrong watching this.
Right. Oh, I knew there was something I was going to say, and then this is definitely it. On the She-Hulk talk. One, Renee Elise Goldsberry, and I forgot I was going to mention this earlier, but technically she's been on another lawyer show before this one, because
she's on The Good Wife.
Okay, 2 lawyer shows before this one.
Oh no, what was this first one?
She was on Ally McBeal. But she wasn't playing a lawyer. She was like one of the backup singers at the bar.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I never watched The Good Wife, so I did not know that part. And then I forgot my other point. So let's move on to I don't know which one you were going to talk about first. Either Rings of Power or what have you. So go for it.
Okay, so let me start with Rings of Power, and it's been a week, so I don't remember everything. I'll just speak in the broadest terms possible. It's times like this episode where I know I told Roddykat that he does not have to go back and watch Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, or Return of the King, right? But it does help to maybe do a quick refresher on character names. You know, maybe a quick peek at the wiki. I don't think you need to delve right into it, but what's interesting about Rings of Power is that you're going to hear a lot of familiar names. Right? And they're kind of compressing, you know, the time period that they're, you know, that they're, you know, this is essentially the formation of the rings and the Rings of Power that are given out to the various groups in Middle Earth, and the One Ring to rule them all, right?
Right.
Ultimately, you're going to hear names that are familiar, and just so that you can re-familiarize yourself with some of the character names, it's probably good to go take a quick look at a wiki, you know, for you know, Fellowship. I think that's the only one you really need to look at. Actually, you know, because that opening Cliff Notes version of the history of Middle Earth that Galadriel gives you at the beginning of Fellowship is where a lot of the stuff that happens in Rings of Power is essentially being told, right?
Right.
So ultimately, that's, you know, that would be the one thing I would recommend. I still think it's a lot of, you know, it's just really nice to look at, and I think just that increased familiarity with the character names and how they fit together will help, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary. I think if you're coming in cold, you'll be awestruck by, you know, the scenery, the visuals, even some of the SF, you know, the special effects. And I think it'll just be fun to watch. I think the characters are starting to be fleshed out. You know, they've given, Amazon has given the people behind this show a lot of room for the story to breathe, even though it seems like they're compressing a lot. There's still a lot of room and a lot of episodes, it seems to me, that they're going to have to give these characters some room to breathe and the story to develop. So I think it's going to be, you know, it's so far it's so good. I'm enjoying it.
Okay. So actually, I'm gonna try to find this and hopefully put it in the show notes, because you just made me think of a video that basically is like, hey, here's everything you might need to know before Rings of Power, that will probably go into what you were talking about. And I have heard online, it was like, yeah, there seems talk of potential lineage throughout the show from what I'm hearing. So I was kind of expecting that.
Yep. Okay. Right. And
oh, here we go.
House of the Dragon.
Okay.
Episode 4 was this past Sunday. And let me tell you, that episode was a little off the chain. I don't know what you've heard about it, Roddykat, but it's just a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There was some potential incest going on.
Sure.
You know, but it's Game of Thrones.
Right. That's par for the course for the
Right. Exactly. There's political, you know, machinations going on, and, you know, obviously there's intrigue. It wouldn't be a Game of Thrones story if it did not have that. And so I think I had a tougher time watching it. I did not watch it Sunday evening. I was tied up Sunday evening. I was visiting with some family friends until late, so I did not get a chance to watch it live. So I watched it Monday evening on HBO Max, and I know I pressed pause a couple of times. I'm like, "What? What's going on? What are you doing?" Which would not have happened if I had watched it live.
Right.
You know, I pressed pause because I was frankly uncomfortable, and you know, that happens when you're watching Game of Thrones. And I think I walked away and I just came back and said, you know what, just press play and we'll see what happens. So I definitely pressed pause a couple of times, and I think I read or heard, maybe it was on a podcast I heard, while I was commuting. I don't know if it was the Ringerverse or the HBO official companion podcast that Jason Concepcion hosts, but ultimately I kind of struggled my way through this because there's some uncomfortable scenes in this episode.
Did it give the warning of such before the show? Yeah, okay. So.
Yeah. They always give you the warning, but we're grown ups. We're just like, all right,
Right.
we know what we're getting into. We just have to, deal with it or just stop watching.
Right, and then there's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be this bad, or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. He's like, oh, pause, walk away.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I hadn't actually heard anything about this particular episode, because then again, I don't think since it's, I've been on online and on Twitter, but I don't think I've seen too much on it since then.
Gotcha. Well, there's not much to it. I'm not that big a Game of Thrones person.
Mm-hmm.
I just appreciate, the care given to the show, this type of show, and how much whatchamacallit, and how just how much money and how much care they put into it. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like I appreciate that. Like they, obviously, there was that controversy with the Starbucks cup in the background. Someone obviously wasn't paying attention.
Right.
But ultimately, I think there's so much care and attention given to this show. I really appreciate how the efforts, the creative efforts that are put into the show.
Gotcha.
Just as I still think I'm probably more invested in Rings of Power just because it's more familiar to me.
Right.
Even though these aren't necessarily characters that we're so familiar with based on The Hobbit or Fellowship.
Right. One would say you were a slightly bigger fan of the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. I read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I read the books.
Yeah, we all
I have not read any of George R.R. Martin's books.
Right. So yeah. So that being said, that's the kind of a thing that's kind of comes in hand with stuff like this. With either one of these, whether you're a fan of that, or if you're just a complete fantasy fan, because you won't care for either. You may or may not care for either one.
Right.
So
Listen, you want swords, sorcery, dragons, monsters, orcs, and a little sex. Game of Thrones and or Rings of Power for you.
Wait, there's nudity in there? Okay.
No, not Rings of Power.
Yeah, I was about to say that seems that would seem
That's
more
Game of Thrones, right?
Right. Like I say, that would be some more. That would be weirder than Game of Thrones not having it. So.
Right.
But okay, so cool. That was the Rings of Power / House of Dragons recap moment. Now we can get into the books of the week.
Transition.
And the first book we're going to get into is definitely not She-Hulk. Oh shit. A.X.E. Judgment Day #4.
Sure. A.X.E. Judgment Day #4 of 6. So we are now past the halfway point of this story. This book is written by Kieron Gillen, with art by Valerio Schiti, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So, a lot of the plans that have been put into place by the Avengers, by the X-Men, start to play out. That we've got Cap trying to calm things. Some of the captions are basically coming from the point of view of the progenitor. That's the celestial that was recreated by a subgroup of Eternals working with the X-Men. And no, actually working with the Avengers, that is, working with Tony Stark. And ultimately, this story is following parallel paths, one being the plan that they're looking to employ to try to basically cheat the judgment. They're trying to make use of and this is a spoiler, so I'm going to ring the spoiler bell. But if you've been keeping up with this, you'll know. But I'm going to ring the spoiler bell anyway. The plan is to use Star Fox and his power of love emanating from him. And I like Kieran Gillen's way of describing what Eros's power actually is and how he interprets his power, because that's not how it has been traditionally depicted and described,
right?
For better or for worse over the course of this character's history in the Marvel comics.
Yep.
But ultimately, some of these plans to combat both what the Eternals have brought to the fore, especially thanks to Druig, as well as what the Progenitor is doing, are basically kind of intersecting in this issue. And we see the ramifications of both what Druig has essentially wrought on the Earth, as well as the rebirth or recreation of the Progenitor Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the broadest strokes possible, because this was a really, really dramatic issue. I don't want to spoil it. There's a lot happening here.
Yeah.
And, forgive me for not giving like a super concise idea of everything that's in this. It's just a really well done issue. I really appreciated this. I think it's going to be a potential click of the week for me.
I can concur with that. I will say, obviously not giving too much away. So we have seen in this issue, let's say the MCUification of Star Fox. Because
excellent point.
Mm-hmm. Because as folks may or may not know, Star Fox did have a cameo at the end of the Eternals movie, in the form of one Harry Styles, and this rendition of Star Fox looks a little bit more like that version than classic Star Fox. Like the classic Star Fox is kind of still there, which actually brings me to another point, was that, if this was classic Star Fox, he probably would have been just okay with the idea that they originally had going on to use him, which was a funny change of pace in this case. But also, this is also the same Star Fox who in an issue or two maybe of She-Hulk got sued for let's say use of his powers. I was going to say misuse of his powers, but let's face it, his powers are nothing but misuse. given when he uses them. So.
Right. And they actually do, it's not a retcon per se, but they give an in-story reason for why he's looking at and approaching his powers differently.
Mm-hmm.
So they do give an in-story reason for that. It's not simply a change of heart.
Right. And also, they also kind of remind, or folks who have been paying attention to comics in the recent last 5 or 10 years or something like that, not necessarily what happened to him, but where he last was, which I think I tried to remember where that was when he showed up in the last episode. I still don't remember what and how all that, because all that part time was a blur, and I think all that went into Silver Surfer Black, and it was a whole thing with them or that Guardians book. So it was a whole thing. It was like, so I was like, okay, so when did actually he come back? Because that's kind of a sticking point sometimes. It's like you see this character just come back out of nowhere, you kind of wonder where they've been. So, and this is one of those cases because I thought he was dead, and apparently that was kind of confirmed, sort of. But since he's an Eternal, I guess he got brought back. That's from my understanding from reading this. Nevertheless, though, like Agent 70 said, this was, if you are keeping up with A.X.E, you should do yourself a favor, and I mean, if you're not already, check this issue out, because it ends on a very interesting note, let's say.
Right, and interestingly, I don't know if Roddykat. I don't think he did. I did not see it on his list, but let me touch on this briefly, so that it's one less book to talk about.
Okay.
Because I can talk about it very quickly, and that's X-Men Red #6.
Oh, right.
I just want to mention it here. I'm going to give the creative team, don't worry, but interestingly, this book is in the reading order, the official reading order after A.X.E Judgment Day #4. I think it should be the other way around. I think you should read X-Men Red #6, which is written by Al Ewing, art by Stefano Caselli, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Ariana Mayer, or Mar, like Bill Maher maybe. I heard the Agent M and his co-host on This Week in Marvel, or the Marvel Pull List, I think, pronounce it as Mar, like Bill Maher.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't know who's correct. You know, it'd be nice to finally meet Ariana and say, hey, how do you pronounce your name?
Right.
But in any event, you know, X-Men Red #6 deals with Arakko and, you know, obviously Uranos's basic, you know, like gigantic attack on Arakko as part of Druig's quest, you know, to eradicate, you know, mutantdom and all of the deviants of mutantdom. That's the premise here, of course. And so the events of X-Men Red #6 essentially, to me, lead into a key plot point in Judgment Day #4, and that's why I wanted to mention that here, and to actually ask our friendly neighborhood listeners and viewers to, if you are going to read this, if you have not read these yet, to read X-Men Red #6 first, and then move on to A.X.E Judgment Day #4.
And actually, going back to Judgment Day #4, that I have not read X-Men Red #6, but if the point that I'm about to slightly bring up, not necessarily spoil, but slightly bring up, has anything to do with that, there was a curious and interesting use for the Mutant Eternals team up in Judgment Day #4, and I don't know if that's something that's ever going to be addressed any further. I don't know why it would, because I know there was kind of a couple of throwaway lines that I was like, well, mutants are deviants and deviants are Eternals, or something like that, or kind of, you know, something along those lines. So the way the mutants and the Eternals kind of team up in a way near the middle of this book is kind of interesting. Although that could very well be just like, no, they just kind of came in because they have the power to do so, or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no, it doesn't really play into that part,
right,
but it definitely plays into a couple of other things that come later in the issue. Gotcha. So, but I guess we can move on to we have two more books in common before we go to rapid fire, and I literally just knocked out one of the books that we don't have in common. Mm-hmm. So we'll be moving things rather briskly here tonight, folks.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
What's next? Amazing Spider-Man #9.
Mm-hmm.
It's written by Zeb Wells, with art by Patrick Gleason, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. I'm going to hand this off to Roddykat to start the conversation on this.
So, folks, do you remember, I know you do, when the Hellfire Gala came about, and we saw Spider-Man, though, and we thought we didn't know which one was which until we kind of figured out which one was which halfway through the issue. And then we find that said Spider-Man end up leaving the gala because of a certain redhead that he's attached, well, not attached to at this point, but he's associated with. Something happened to her. Well, now we get to find out what happened with that situation after, I don't know how long it's been. It's been about a month almost.
More?
Yeah, probably been about almost 2 months since the gala. And we also come to find out that apparently, as a joke, Wolverine gave him his invite somehow or some way. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so we kind of get the not the aftermath, but we kind of get what happens after the whole after what happens there, that happens. If you don't know what happens, there was an altercation that happened that was involving Mary Jane and a certain other redhead on the mutant part of the part of the spectrum that we get to kind of see play out at her. And apparently, I'm going to ask Agent 70 this because when did this happen to her, to Moira? So was this the Death of Wolverine stuff?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was Death of Wolverine stuff, and I want to say X-Force stuff too.
Okay.
You know, like a lot of that stuff was happening, you know, to move Moira's story along.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely Death of Wolverine and some stuff in X-Force. And I want to say there was another mini event that moved it along I forget now what it is. I'd have to look it up, you know, probably check out the wiki and see what issues her story occurs in.
Gotcha. But it wasn't the one associated with Death of Wolverine. It wasn't Lives of Wolverine. It wasn't that one, was it?
No, 10 Lives and 10 Deaths.
Yeah. Okay, you were taking that as a whole. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, 10 Lives and 10 Deaths.
Gotcha.
But I think the Moira story continued in another kind of little mini series. I don't know if it was a set of annuals or not. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
You know, you're gonna make me look while we talk about it. You know, you can continue talking about this while I look.
And there's not really much else to say because I don't want to really give away too much about this issue. But that's pretty much the crux of it. Except for the fact that near the end and going into the end, we still get a big tease as to the relationship between Peter and MJ. Like, we don't really get any hard answers to anything, but I guess we get a little more tease as to something happened. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was kind of hard to read because it was like, oh wow, that's I still don't even know at this point what happened, but that hit kind of hard, you know, like with the conversation between Peter and MJ kind of hit kind of hard just a little bit because of the fact that you're used to seeing him, especially coming out of that last volume, in a certain way.
Right, and the mystery. Right, we've talked about this. The mystery is still going.
Exactly, yeah, which was what I was saying.
What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still going. We are 9 issues into this run, and we still don't know what transpired to put Peter on the outs with the entire superhero community and with MJ.
Right.
Even Wolverine alludes to it because he is, a long time crossover specialist. Right? He is, I almost felt like I was reading a 90s comic because Wolverine was playing a role in a Spidey comic.
More than one time. Right, I was about to say more than one time this week, actually.
Right. So ultimately, I felt like, and I'm still kind of struggling with this story. I did appreciate the story. I thought it was very strong.
Right.
I liked it. I don't think it approached potential Kliq of the Week status for me, but I definitely enjoyed reading it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That little part with a teleporter that they end up using. I was like, where'd this guy been? I mean, we kind of know. I think we've seen him in one of the X-books fairly recently, but nevertheless, I'm like, I was never expecting them to Actually, I think there was a couple of people I didn't expect to show up in Amazing Spider-Man. Wolverine not aside, I guess. So there is that. But yeah, it was a good read. It was, like you said, it was kind of up there. Maybe not. Pictures of Kliq of the Week status, but still a good read if you're still interested in the story. I guess you're still looking up whatever it is you're looking up, but I'm probably
10 Lives and 10 Deaths. That's the best I got so far. I'm looking at I was looking at the fandom.com, but I'm going to check the wiki because I'm pretty sure there was something else that really developed this whole, like the current state that she was in, kind of being in between bodies. You know, that's a mild spoiler.
Right.
So I'm double checking the I'm looking at the wiki and just seeing what you know, where the yeah, I guess it's mostly 10 lives and 10, oh, it was mostly 10 deaths. But I feel like there was another book that really started to describe you know, like the actual current state that Moira finds herself in. But I guess you just have to go back and double check 10 deaths really to see how we've gotten to this point.
Right, to which apparently I need to go back and read anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
that being said, we're going to move on to the next book, which is Iron Man number 23.
Sure. Iron Man number 23 is written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Angel Unzueta, colors by Frank D'Armata, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So there's actually a lot going on in this issue. There is an interesting amount of action in this issue as well, because we get you know, a generous amount of intrigue. Right? If you haven't been keeping up with this, this is Cantwell's updated version of the traditional Armor Wars story. But it definitely plays out differently, and it still keeps a lot of the continuity that Cantwell has supplied during this run in play. And I'd like that. I like that things are not, you know, what he's written in Iron Man's recent past are not just throwaway. He's building on them and incorporating them into his current story, which I don't know if this is the last story before he closes his run on the book. I know his run ends this fall,
Right.
or this winter. So I don't know if that's the case. That might very well be.
I think so. I want to say it is, actually.
Right. That you know, to quote Doctor Strange, we're in the end game now when it comes to Cantwell's run on the book. But ultimately, you know, I really appreciated this issue for moving a lot of the plots and subplots along in a really, you know, strong fashion. I really did enjoy this issue. I don't know if it's potential Kliq of the Week status, but it's an enjoyable book. You know, and it really brings together a lot of some of the ongoing stories that have been going on since Tony Stark had to give up, you know, that power that he obtained from, what was it, the Galactus' ship,
Right.
From the Tatu.
Right.
So once he had to give that up, we jumped right into this Armor War story. And you know, it's to me, it's had some fits and starts, but I thought this really tied a lot of the story together. What did you think?
I agree with that. Also, I have to congratulate or you know, give props to Cantwell, because I think that, especially in this story, we have interestingly seen a turn back just a little bit to a classic Tony, where he's kind of taking things on himself and kind of internal monologuing, is like, oh, putting things on himself. It's like, I gotta fix this and this kind of stuff. Like, that's kind of some classic Tony business, and the voice that Cantrell kind of puts on that kind of feels like he's done.
No, you
that
said, I was about to say, you said Cantrell. I'm like, no, it's not Blue Cantrell. It's
Oh, Cantwell, yeah. We're not.
I'm sorry, folks. We always find ways to make wacky, sometimes obscure music references on this show. I'm sorry to interrupt. Please
No,
continue.
you're good. No, that was good. The only other note that I was going to say on that is that, in addition to, as Agent 70 said, this being a version of an updated version of Armor Wars, we really kind of see Tony get into a MCU-ized version of Damage Control with how he's handling things, because you know, for those that don't know, you know, Armor Wars was him going after people using his tech, so that you know can't be used for bad. He's doing kind of a similar thing in this, except for he's, you know, taking other tech that's not his and storing it up, which kind of made me think of like I said, the MCU version of, or I guess in some version of Damage Control. But more as the MCU version, because they're the one kind of stockpiling tech at this point. So whether that's intentional, I don't know, but probably is. But yeah, there was like a deep cut in here with an old Tony villain that shows up, and I don't know about you. I know you probably didn't, but I know there was a certain part when we got to an end where something happens to a certain character. I was like, oh goddamn, not again.
Right. No, I noticed it. I was like, really? They brought this character back to do almost the exact kind of opposite character turn?
Right.
You know? I was like,
but
okay, Campbell, I definitely get what era of Iron Man you grew up, you know, as a fan of.
Right. Right. But at the same time, it also had me thinking...
You know, was that Bob Layton, was that Michelini?
Probably.
Writing it?
Bob?
Because I know it was Bob Layton doing the art.
Right. Probably. I don't honestly remember. Because I don't...
Yeah, I know. Like, that was pre keeping track of the creative teams. I know.
Yes, exactly. So, like, the name sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you if that's actually...
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of the art, I always knew who the artist was. I knew Bob Layton. Bob Layton had a weird way of drawing Rhodey's short afro back then.
Right.
And even Tony's hair was always kind of a little like borderline sketchy. You know, it was like a curly mullet.
Right.
At that time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember.
So, but yeah, you know, like I actually don't have my iPad in front of me, so I mean, I could look it up on Marvel Unlimited through means, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm only passingly familiar with the character who is on the cliffhanger page at the end of the book. Are you familiar with that character?
Yes, kinda. It's definitely an old...
Probably more than me. Probably more than me.
It's definitely an old Iron Man cut that I remember. But at the same time, I was like... Part of me had me thinking, I was like, wait. Because of what we just talked about, alluded to, and then this, I'm kind of wondering if that was a ruse. But maybe I'm putting too much on, Cantwell's writing and thought process in this. Because I felt like what happened to Rhodey was like, well, that was like, it was just like, it was touched on, but it wasn't really, it wasn't really, like the last time something like that happened to him, it had a little bit more gravitas to it, put it that way.
Sure. I mean, it could be a triple cross.
Right.
It could be a triple cross. We'll see. I see where you're going with that.
Right.
So we'll see how it develops. I'll be interested to see if that's actually what happens. Right? Because even I was kind of like, oh, really?
Right.
No. And, and it's interesting that, this was a nice, it was a nice place to put this particular sort of pseudo big bad, the person behind, what's the group? Source control.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's interesting to see that this character was brought back to be, behind that particular group.
Right.
So,
or at the very least a face of,
Exactly. And it's not, I want to say I've almost always associated this character as being part of Iron Man's like kind of pseudo villains gallery.
Mm-hmm. Basically, yeah.
Okay. Like I was never, I haven't always been the most consistent Iron Man reader, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Right.
But I've read it enough to recognize most of the major players, but not all. And as a fan of the Ohatmu books, that's where a lot of my knowledge, of Tony Stark's history comes from.
Right. Yeah, Iron Man was definitely one of the books I read in the early ages because I was, Avengers fan, so therefore I was getting most of the Avengers with the exception of probably, as much as I hate to say this, for 8 to 70 Thor. Although there was when Thor crossed over with some stuff, and at special times I would get some Thor books, but mostly it was like Avengers, Iron Man, West Coast Avengers, and some Cap actually during that time too because of that. So.
Right, I was about to say I was reading Cap before that. Not so much at that point, like I was kind of in and out, and that's when they brought in John Walker, unfortunately.
Right. Oof.
Because that was the original Armor Wars time is when they brought in John Walker, as the Patriot first, and then as the replacement Captain America. Mm-hmm. So I definitely read some of that stuff because, and we'll move on very quickly, folks. Yes. This is kind of like a nice little walk down memory lane. I love there's a couple of Mike Zeck covers from that era. Mm-hmm. When when Steve Rogers resigns as Captain America, that are classic. That I was so happy to have Mike Zeck sign for me, because when I was a little younger than that, Mike Zeck did some incredible interiors for Captain America books. He did the majority of the interiors for Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. So I was a big fan of his as a kid, and I've been blessed to have met him a couple of times not at New York Comic Cons, but in New Jersey of all places. I've seen him a few times at cons in New Jersey because he's just not a fan of going into the city. It's probably just too expensive for him to make it into the city. But I saw him in New Jersey, and I was very, very blessed to be able to get some really cool stuff signed by him, and those Captain America covers were like front and center, like probably some of the first things I pulled out to get signed.
Right. The Captain.
So happy. Yes, yeah, exactly. Like I don't think I got the Captain issue signed because I don't think my copy of that was in the greatest condition.
Right.
But I definitely had bought the Captain America No More where the flag is bleeding basically, and he's got his hands down, and Abraham Lincoln is in the corner box crying.
Right.
That's a classic. I love that. That image is ingrained in my brain. So, but anyway, folks, I'm sorry for that walk down memory lane. I definitely recommend at least looking at those covers. The story's okay, but those covers are incredible to see.
Right. Hey, it's what the people are here for. They know we're of a certain vintage. So
that's right.
With that, we are going to move on to Rapid Fire.
Yes, we are spinning it up because I have few books, and now we have no books in common left. So here we go. Rapid Fire time.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Okay, so first up for me is Captain Marvel number 41. Surprise, surprise. So it's written by Kelly Thompson with art by Juan Frigeri and Alvaro Lopez, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So I say surprise, surprise because I have not really been keeping up with this book that closely. But I thought this issue, which wraps up the most recent storyline and kind of wraps up a couple of storylines that have been kind of that Kelly Thompson has intertwined over the last, say, 2 or even 3 story arcs, kind of wraps them up together in this one issue, and it is so effective. I only had a passing idea of what had happened, and I thought that the way this story was told and the way that the art and the storytelling by Juan Frigeri and Alvaro Lopez on the book really helped bring the story together for me and to remind me what was going on, what I kind of only vaguely remembered, I thought was really effective. Surprise, surprise, this is actually a potential click of the week for me, because I thought this was such a strong issue that, there's examples of growth in both Carol Danvers as the lead character, as well as her supporting cast. We do have an appearance here by Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman. We do have an appearance by the current version of Binary. And if you're not sure why Binary and Captain Marvel are existing separately, you may want to go back a few story arcs and find out what happened. But that story isn't exactly wrapped up, but it does reach some level of conclusion, basically to be continued. There are other interesting developments for some of the supporting characters. I hesitate to call them side characters, but they're really supporting characters in the Captain Marvel book. So I really appreciated how strong this issue was. Next up is Daredevil number 3. This is the last book I've got in my list because I already covered X-Men number 6. Daredevil number 3 is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Rafael De La Torre, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So the pacing of Daredevil has just about caught up with the pacing of another street level turned not so street level character, namely Frank Castle, the Punisher, the current Jason Aaron version, right? The head of the hand, the beast of the hand, right? Or the fist of, I think he's the fist of the hand, right? Or the beast of the hand. I it's been I think a week. I think last week there was a Punisher book out. I just don't remember. We read so many books, folks. Even though I've only got 6 books down on my list this week, I read a few more. I just didn't feel comfortable adding them to my list to talk about. But ultimately, the story of Daredevil in this issue catches up with where we find him at the end of the most recent issue of Punisher, where he finally meets up with Frank, and they're on a collision course. The bulk of this issue is about Daredevil somewhat, kind of wrapping up some of his business in New York because, or at least putting in some FaceTime with his business in New York, keeping tabs on it, maybe not finalizing things, but definitely putting in some FaceTime with the outstanding issues he would have in New York or might have in New York before he goes off to go meet up with Elektra, who is now another Daredevil. That's a minor spoiler, but it's been going on for a while, so it's not that big a spoiler, folks. She's been acting as Daredevil while Matt Murdock was in prison over the previous run of Zdarsky's, the previous volume of Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. So all that to say is that we are moving forward in this partnership between the two Daredevils, and we're about to really run into how it all intersects with Frank Castle in the Punisher book. We may detour a little bit in the Daredevil book, but ultimately we're about to get to that point, if not the next issue very soon, because I know that they have teased some relationship things happening with Daredevil and Elektra in the solicitations. I've seen that online. So in teasers for, I think, December. So, that's still a few months away. We'll see how the Daredevil book develops. It seems to be a step and a half or even 2 steps behind where the Punisher book is and Daredevil's appearance there. That seems to be where things are in terms of the time frame. But ultimately, that's it for me, and I will hand it off to Roddykat.
Well, in one way, keeping with the Punisher / Daredevil train, actually, we go to Savage Avengers number 5. The book that never dies, as we used to call it.
Yes.
But this is a different volume.
It's the little book that could, right?
Pretty much. Oh man, yeah. There's exactly. The way the first volume came out and what it came out from, you would think it wasn't going to last that much longer than it did, and then it went. Even after hearing that it was supposed to end at some point, but we never got a clear. We ended up not getting a clear point as to when that win was. But nevertheless, it did end, and another volume came out. So technically, this is all new, all different, as the cover says, Savage Adventures. But in this issue, slight spoiler: the license for Conan the Barbarian is no longer with, or is going away from Marvel. So therefore, you had to wrap up anything using him, and this is the issue that wraps up his involvement with the Savage Avengers, which the book was pretty much made around him in the first place. So it's going to be interesting to see where this book goes after this, because, like I said, we pretty much wrap up Conan's story with this. But at the end of this, we get introduced to a potential new ally or member of the group, and we did talk about this in an article like a couple of weeks back. So if you've been keeping up with us, this is not that big of a spoiler. Punisher 2099 comes in at the end of this book, hence the Punisher tie. You know, it's not Frank Castle, it's Jake Gallows, because, you know, obviously, and it's not Cosmic Ghost Rider. So the less we see of that person, the better. But nevertheless, like I said, the Conan story wraps up, but the team still is trapped in time, and I guess they're in an alternate version of 2099, and hence why they end up meeting Punisher 29 at the end of this book. Again, like I said, for a book that's was pretty much made around Conan the Barbarian, and now does not have him anymore, it's going to be interesting to see how long this book goes and where this book goes. Like, obviously, the cast of characters with this book, they're still, I guess, you can still make the name stick for the characters in this book, because you have Elektra, Daredevil, you got Cloak and Dagger, you got Anti-Venom, you got Deathlock, you got Black Knight, and you got Weapon H. You know, all folks kind of broken in their own different ways. And in fact, I guess some of that kind of gets slightly addressed here, because there's a budding romance, and there's also some actual change happened to the characters by the end of this book. So, like I said, we'll see where they take it going after this issue. Anyway, that was supposed to be a rapid fire, and it was not. So, therefore, we're going to move into Midnight Suns.
I was about to say, you gave all that time to Savage Avengers. Wow.
Yeah, no. Normally that would have been a couple of sentences and done. But like I said, I at least wanted to address the fact that Conan is no longer on the book. So
Right.
But Midnight Suns #1. Speaking of books that come out of side things, you know what? I totally forgot to give the thing, but I'll do that in a second. Let's see. Where's my? Uh-oh. Oh dear.
When you want the credits for?
Oh no, never mind. I got it. I was like, where did I misplace my credits here? Written by Ethan Sachs, art by Luigi Zagaria, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So this book, as I say in my notes, the Midnight Suns, or at least a version of it, get reassembled because they have a video game coming out, which is actually true. Because the Midnight Suns video game and a lot of the characters that are appearing in this book are going to be in that video game. Coincidence? No. But in that case, you know, here is a story that, as far as I know, does not have anything to do with the video game. However, because this is from what I know of the story of the video game, and from what I've read from this issue, they don't connect. Because this story has to do with, actually, strangely enough, Blade basically comes visiting as a guest lecturer to Strange Academy. One of the students, because of one of the students, I guess, or something around one of the students, there is a mass vision that is had by a lot of the mystic aligned folks of the Marvel universe, not just the folks at the school, but wider than that. So because of this vision, there's that looks like almost a prophecy like thing that we saw in Strange Academy that is we're heading towards. surrounding one student, and a bunch of people, for good or for ill, coming after the said student. One of the person is a longtime Fantastic Four villain, so you can pretty much figure who that might be at the end of this. But yes, like I said, there's a cast of characters here that's going to be in the video game, so that is pretty much the tie to that. But the story in itself, as far as I could tell, has nothing to do with the video game. Next up, though, Star Wars is actually a not bad read, but you know, like I said, knowing that it's kind of a tangential tie to that it is what it is. But the story might be all right. Star Wars OP1 number 5, which is the last issue of this book. Excuse me as I get the cover. Bling. The creative team is Christopher Cantwell, writer. Pencils by Adriana Mello. Inks by Wayne Foucher. And colors by Dono Sanchez Almara. Letters also by VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is the last issue of this book, which means the storm is over, which means the last memory for Obi-Wan, because this whole series has been him kind of flashing back to memories of him in his younger days. Except for that doesn't necessarily happen in this particular issue. There's an overzealous commander wanting to make an example of the Tuscans, and as I say in my notes, Akbar calls it again, let's say. But Obi-Wan being Obi-Wan can't help but going out by being Obi-Wan, and there's an interesting shadow at the end of this book that I'm not entirely sure where this plays in, because it could be one of two people that is representing, and since this is the last issue of this book, I don't know where this is going to take up, but we're supposed to be led to believe that we know where this is going to have taken up next, because whatever it is probably already happened. So there is that, folks. Let's see. Next up is, Edge of Spider-Verse number 3, which I believe Agent 70 said he kind of. You didn't, bro. Okay, you didn't. Okay, this was not that one. Thought you said you'd.
Sorry, I'm muted. I did not even have a chance to breeze through this issue this week.
Okay.
So, but feel free to spoil it.
Nah.
I know that I've mentioned this before, that these Edge of Spider-Verse books are often targets for speculators, because we may get the next Spider-Gwen in them. So you never know. Because they do have a habit of introducing new characters. So feel free to talk about that. I'll make sure to take a look at it before next week.
Right. Well, I know in one respect, let's just say that has already happened online because of the next issue, because there is a kind of a character that some have taken to for a reason. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Creative team, on the first story, which is the Spider India story, Nikesh Shukla, art by there's a lot of people on art on this one. Art by Mark Bagley, David Baldion, Paco Medina, Geraldo Sandoval, and Abhishek Malsuni. Colors by Edgar Delgado and Israel Silva, Andrew Carsley, and Eric Arciniega. That's just the first story. Second story, Dan Slott writes it, art by Sumai Kesgan, and colors by Brian Reber. The third story, I believe this, and the second story is Night Spider. And the third story, which is Sakura Spider, is written by Shanshiro Kasama, art by Hikaru Isugi, and co-scripted by Zach Davison, and all of the lettering for the whole book is done by VC's Joe Caramagna. So as I said, like I said, the first story, which has an interesting Into the Spider-Verse tinge to it, has to do with Spider India, because even the beginning, he's basically kind of like, well, let's start this from the top. And if you remember that movie, that was said a lot in that. But basically, it's pretty much a trip through various versions of Spider India. The second story has to do with Night Spider, which is basically Felicia Hyde. What if Felicia Hardy gets bitten by a spider? So let's just say Felicia's still going to be Felicia.
Of course.
So,
of course, that's implied by the cover. One of the few times where the cover actually pays off a little bit in the book.
Mm-hmm. And the third story has to do with, again, Sakura Spider, which apparently is a character from Deadpool Samurai, which is the, I think it was the Deadpool manga that Viz Media put out, if I'm not mistaken. Because at the end of it, it says, hey, if you want to know about the earlier adventures of Sakura Spider, read the 2 volumes of that. So, but basically we get kind of an older story for that character. And, of course, in true Spider-Person family, has some familiar beats to it, let's just say, in ways. And that's pretty much that. The next book is Miss Marvel and Venom #1, which I believe Agent 70 did say he kind of skimmed through. Bing. There we go. And the creative team is written by Jody Houser, art by Dave Wachter. I finally got that name right. Color artist Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this is the last of the basically the team up one shots that are all connected with Ms. Marvel and X group or person. Like the last one was Moon Knight, the one before it was the X-Men, and this is the last one, which is Venom. And this is not Eddie Brock Venom, in case you were wondering, because Eddie Brock is no longer with us. It is his son, Dylan, which I don't know too much about that character. I know they came out of the King in Black story, if I'm not mistaken, or that's where they got kind of a big push, I guess, or big. That's where they were featured, correct? Do you remember?
Oh, you mean Venom?
Yeah, specifically the Dylan Brock version.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The change. That's definitely where that occurred.
Right. So it basically is like a team up between that version of Venom and Ms. Marvel, which, like I said, kind of uneasy allies, and I don't know too much about this particular version. Outside of what I just mentioned, but it happens. The story pretty much wraps up, and as Agent 70 said before the show, there was some good character, notes going on in this way. But it just pretty much ended. There was a Kiro reference, which I kind of appreciated, but I don't know if anybody else definitely Moon Knight didn't appreciate it because didn't know anything about it.
I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Even I, come to think of it, I had already watched Akira before my anime journey.
Right.
But I think I rewatched it just to remember what happened.
Right.
Even though, because it's not really the easiest movie to follow.
No, it is not. It kind of goes.
I think it kind of goes in a couple of directions.
Yeah.
So I definitely did rewatch it during my anime journey. I actually just to you have what, one more book left?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about my anime journey when we get to Anime Corner.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the quote unquote big bad in this story is I believe it's a group that we've seen in the pages of the X books.
Yeah, Xeno.
Right.
The character Xeno. This is in the character's in X-Force.
Right.
And there's actually a reference to it in this book.
Exactly. I was about to say that. So I'm guessing this is going to go back into that book, which kind of not necessarily turned me off, but it was like, okay, I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a finite thing. But then again, none of these like one-shot team up, one-shot things have kind of paid off like that. But it was a nice end to the story. Or, like I said, whether that Xeno stuff kind of goes back into X-Force or not, I guess we'll see. Did you have anything to say about it, or?
Just that I actually didn't mind. I think did I mention this earlier? I like the character development.
Yes, you did.
and Ms. Marvel's, handling under the reins, under the direction of Jody Houser.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting like the biggest character developments here. We're not.
Right.
but I really liked some of the thinking behind the insight that she provides, and some of the character interactions that she has with the guest stars that she had so far. I really enjoyed that. You know, everyone from the X-Men that she dealt with, to Moon Knight, to now Venom, and am I missing one? Or is it just those three?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Right. So I really appreciated how Jodie Houser kind of, you know, compared and contrasted Kamala's interactions with each, and how she reacts differently to characters, one, that she's already worked with, and two, she has preconceived notions of.
Right.
You know, especially dealing with Moon Knight and Venom, and the current incarnations of those two. You know, specifically that Moon Knight is now leading the midnight, you know, his midnight mission. You know, like, you know, I really mean like the current incarnations.
Right.
As Roddykat mentioned, the Venom incarnation that that Kamala is probably most familiar with is Eddie Brock. And, you know, that sort of comes into play during their interactions here. So, you know, in this issue, and, you know, now we're dealing with his son Dylan, and, you know, that obviously changes the character's drive, motivations, persona, all of that. You know, obviously the symbiote is still going to be the symbiote to a certain extent. You know, there's still that interplay going on, but we have a different host. And so that changes the character fundamentally. And ultimately, it was really, I think, a good job by Jodie Houser. I really appreciated, you know, I had read these very quickly and very, you know, like casually, not with an eye towards that, but I definitely felt like she did a good job of developing that aspect of the Ms. Marvel character. Right. It's not necessarily like big things, like we're not dealing with her family, but we're dealing with her interpersonal interactions with fellow heroes and even anti-heroes.
Right. And like you said, she even kind of gets addressed at the end of this book, because she was like, yeah, I had some notions about you, talking about Venom. I guess talking to Venom about that, and so yeah, she got to kind of even change. Even Kamala has to change her perceptions about certain folks. So it was a good turn. Yeah, I'm like I say, I'm still not that familiar with this the Dylan Brock version, because the whole and his interactions with the symbiote specifically. You know, and the intensity of it. So I was like, so part of that was like, okay, I guess that's what the character is now. So anyway,
right.
Last book for me is Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, number 5 of 5. So this is written by, story by Cullen Bunn, art by Freddie E. Williams II, colors by Andrew Dalhouse, and letters by Johanna Natalie. So yeah, hey, guess what, folks? The Rangers and Godzilla pretty much take down Ghidorah. I don't see how that would have happened normally. I'm sorry, but Ghidorah is a force to be reckoned with. King Ghidorah, take me to your leader. All of that. Anyway, they take down
and the Zillions. I did flip through this just to look at the art.
Yes. And the Zillions pretty much took care of the Rangers, and Godzilla took care of the...
No, it's the X-Zillions.
The X-Zillions?
I recently rewatched some of the old Godzilla Monster Zero / King Ghidorah stories.
Gotcha.
So that's how they pronounce... I think in the dubs, I think that's how they pronounce it, the X-Zillions.
Yeah, that sounds like something to do. But basically, everything kind of gets wrapped up. So the funny part about it was like, hey, Ghidorah's been taken down, the aliens been taken care of, Rita scatters, Godzilla still wants to fight, because of course he's the king of monsters, so he's trying to get his. And then the Rangers like, yeah, we should get out of here. So, and granted, that's kind of pretty much skirting the whole story, but it's a interesting action-packed read that there's a little bit more that happens to, but that's the crux of it. It was kind of funny though, but it also leads into a potential another crossover or maybe a sequel. I'm not sure, because at the end of the book, while Rita does escape, it kind of sets up something else. It even says like to be continued with a question mark because Rita is somewhere and the Rangers are back home, but it's don't know where she is. But she basically could come up somewhere else, and the Rangers are going to have to go after her. So we'll see what happens with that.
I took that as implying that there's a possibility of another Godzilla crossover as well.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so there could be a sequel, or like I said, she's going to another different Mighty Morphin Power Rangers crossover because there've been a couple. So, but yeah, we'll see. And I didn't see anything like already announced at the end of this book, because sometimes that has happened. So, if there is one announced at some point soon, we'll find out. And that, folks, is the end of my books. One more thing, actually, real quick. Creative team for Savage Avengers is written by David Pepos, art by Carlos Magno, color artist Espen Grundigen, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And now, Kliqs of the Week.
Kliqs of the Week.
And we got a couple of them. Actually, we got a full house.
I was about to say, you are correct. We have a full complement of Kliqs of the Week this week.
Mm-hmm. And the first one from Dirt is Amazing Spider-Man number 9. And I believe he had said something up to the point of, he said it was fun. I'll skip the rest of that stuff, but he's basically been saying he's been reading Amazing Spider-Man. And he was
good. He doesn't. Yeah, I was about to say. I think you should actually mention that stuff, that he hasn't been keeping up with the X stuff.
Well, yeah,
and
right.
Luckily for him, he enjoyed it enough even without knowing all the X stuff.
Right. So, and we get which is a book I'm actually had intended to read, but I'm still need to go back and kind of read some stuff. From Tim, we have Batman vs. Robin number 1, which was a mini event that I knew was coming because of reading Batman Superman World's Finest, and also coming out of Shadow War, which Shadow War I haven't finished reading. So there is that. And I know the stuff in this book is supposed to take place, have something to do with both of those. So, and I think even Tim said he has to go back and read Wade's World's Finest, which has actually been not bad so far. So I will say that. Do you have yours?
I'm having a tough time. I read a bunch of strong books this week.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I really enjoyed a lot of the books I read this week, specifically A.X.E. Judgment Day number 4. I actually did like Amazing Spider-Man number 9, despite the fact that the mystery continues. It's so frustrating to a certain extent. I do appreciate the long game, but at the same time, I'm like, yo, we are 9 issues in. You ain't telling us anything right now?
Right.
How long is this payoff going to take? I actually, as I said earlier, really like Captain Marvel number 41. It's almost like I did not necessarily need to have read all the other stuff, but it helped. And I've been in and out of the book for a little while, but I really appreciated how strong this book was, this issue.
Right.
And X-Men Red number 6. Al Ewing did a bang up job on this issue.
As he tends to do.
Bang up job. So I have literally 4 candidates to choose from, and I'm trying to figure out who best to pick. I may actually pick the Dark Horse candidate here, and I don't have a Dark Horse book, unfortunately. Sorry, Dark Horse. But there is a Dark Horse candidate that's obvious from what I just talked about, and and the list of books that I just gave everyone. Do you have a candidate? Or at least a thought process right now?
I definitely have a candidate. Amazing was actually pretty good. Like I said, we still getting teased on. We still dangling that whole thing with MJ, and that's kind of frustrating. But
it's annoying. I'm so annoyed by it. I really am.
So, but that said, it was still a relatively strong book for the nugget that we got. I kind of like Midnight Suns, but that's kind of a book that is what it is, And like I said, I'm judging it by the fact that I know there's a video game coming out that has to do with it, but at the same time, I probably shouldn't do with that because the story has nothing to do with as far as I know so far, has nothing to do with that. A.X.E. is definitely another strong candidate. And in fact, I think that's probably and Iron Man also was a pretty good pick. But I think I'm actually going to go with A.X.E, Judgment Day #4.
Nice. I'm really leaning towards that because I did enjoy. There's a lot of great storytelling twists in that issue.
You're right.
We talked about Tim's book, right?
Yeah, Batman versus Robin. Yeah.
Okay. I was literally going through my review copies and looking at that. I couldn't. I lost track of things. Man, I can't believe I actually have 4. After last week where I was kind of stuck, and we've had a couple of weeks like that over the last several, where we've been struggling with trying to find a book to pick. But I think I'm going to go with my dark horse pick this week. Believe it or not, folks, over A.X.E Judgment Day #4, I'm going to pick Captain Marvel #41 by Kelly Thompson, Juan Frigeri, Alvaro Lopez, Jordi Belair, and VC's Clayton Cowles. Just because I really liked some of the things that Kelly Thompson developed over the course of the storyline and over the course of the last few story arcs. And, this storyline in particular, I thought paid off so much. This issue paid off so much of the last several storylines. And I don't know if, it's an issue #41. I don't know if it was purposefully done to kind of wrap up the story and maybe lead into a long arc that goes up to a big 50th issue. I hope that's the case.
Right.
I really do, because it seemed like, a lot of stuff was, wrapped up, maybe not nicely and neatly here, but, it definitely seemed like they had wrapped up a few ongoing storylines in this issue. It was just so well done. So I'm going to go with Captain Marvel #41, a really, no pun intended, I made my dark horse joke already, but a real dark horse pick for me. But I have to tell the listening and viewing audience that if you have not been reading Kelly Thompson's Captain Marvel, you should take a look at it. I think it's been pretty strong from jump.
Gotcha. And that's and it's safe to say that this, before we go on, it's a pretty strong. It was a pretty decently strong week for this. There was a lot of books came out this week. Also worth noting, Batman Day is on the 17th, and there was a lot of Batman books this week. So, and even one of which that I didn't get a chance to read, which I normally would have, but we got a lot of books and not that much time, folks. So that being said, we're going to push over into the news section, but first an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night. Which one did I say I was going to do first?
You said Funko.
Okay, I do have that first. Thank you very much for the reminder. Funko, fun at first sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we go into the cinematic news as we do about this time. First up, Marvel's Agatha Harkness spinoff reportedly gives Wizard of Oz inspired working title. And so I guess if you're going around town and you happen to see some people working on the thing, look for the working title of My Pretty, which you may or may not see on their thing. I don't know. I've never run into any productions because they don't do that kind of stuff here where I am.
I mean, we get lots of Law and Order here in New York City, but we definitely get a few Marvel things here and there. But most of the time, these things are filmed in other places too.
Right. North Carolina, definitely. Not South Carolina so much. Some things, well, depending on what it is. But nevertheless. So, yeah, looks like Agatha Harkness, House of Harkness. Excuse me, Agatha House of Harkness. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It's called Agatha Coven of Chaos is the actual title. But the working title is My Pretty, and it's supposed to show up in July 20... Wait. No, that's when it received this thing. We don't know when it's supposedly sometime next year, I think. January 2023, according to this article, when that potentially could come out. Next up.
All right. So after various reports, Marvel has finally confirmed that the Hood will be the main villain of the Disney Plus Ironheart series. The casting confirmation came during the D23 Expo, the fan convention where Disney revealed trailers, casting, etc., etc. Anthony Ramos, the actor, will be portraying the villain, and he appeared on stage at the convention where viewers got a sneak peek at the series. If you are not familiar with Anthony Ramos, you probably first saw him when you watched the Disney Plus presentation of Hamilton. He was playing John Lawrence, one of the rebel Confederates that Alexander Hamilton was friends with.
Indeed.
You know?
We have another ex-Hamilton person in a Marvel thing.
Right. And what was it? Was it In the Heights that
Probably.
he was in? No, maybe
true.
I'm mistaken.
You might be right, actually.
Is it In the Heights?
Might be right.
I'm going to double check.
Yeah, actually, I was going to look real quick.
No, it is In the Heights. It is In the Heights. So, I see it. I don't even have to click on the link. It's in the image that's under the IMDb link.
Right. But now he's going to be an Ironheart as the Hood of all people. Which, I don't know, that's still a strange villain, but sure, you got to give her somebody that's going to actually be a little tricky.
Well, didn't we see an article like teasing the Hood and saying that they were going to make this show like the interaction between the tech and the magic? And I think I saw somebody say, well, if you're going to do that, it might as well be Doom.
So have Riri up against Doom as her first thing. They just want the Fantastic Four to come out. That's all that was. We see what that is.
And I was about to say, and considering the D23 news that we did not get,
right?
I'll let that one hang in the air.
Yeah,
we'll
get to that in a few. Next
Moving
up.
on.
Thor: Love and Thunder CGI edited for Disney Plus release, which I haven't rewatched this while it was on there, so I wouldn't have known. And at this point, I wouldn't have known what would have changed. So apparently, somebody on Twitter pointed out that Marvel fixed the visual effects for Axel's floating head, which was a subject of complaint for fans, according to this article. I don't think I noticed it that much. Users are also claiming that CGI adjustments don't look any better than the original. Again, according to this article, some would say worse, but then again, people are going to complain whatever the case may be. So, hence She-Hulk, but we won't talk about the recent news on that. Let's see. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And even this article has a side-by-side comparison of potentially the old and new version. So... Sure. Okay. There was also something else I came across recently. I think it was like one of those Easter egg videos. It was like, or honest trailers, I think it was. Actually, it was an honest trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder. Where it was mentioned as like, yeah, the effects houses don't want to work with Marvel because, because of something, this and that, because of trying to get unrealistic expectations or something like that. I don't know. But it was an honest trailer, so you got to take it for whatever it was, which, sometimes even in jokes, there's a little bit of truth. But next up,
I just wanted to mention that Anthony Ramos also played, the character, the actor who plays John Lawrence also plays Philip Hamilton, who mild spoilers here, does die in Hamilton. So, you know, I mean, it's a historical fact. So come on, folks, we're not really spoiling anything.
Yes.
Next up, so Thor: Love and Thunder almost included a major religious figure. I love, you know, these headlines, right? So basically, Taika Waititi said in an interview with the BBC that, you know, when he was asked about gods that came close to being included in Thor: Love and Thunder, he said that he was surprised the god of dumplings made it because, you know, he thought of this character while he was eating lunch.
Right.
So, you know, that makes a whole ton of sense. He does go on to mention, and I thought this might happen, when Valkyrie mentions the god of carpentry, I thought that was an aside, that was a reference
Right.
to the one and only our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know, sorry for the religious plug there, folks. You know, but ultimately, you know, when I heard that, I kind of got the reference. I didn't expect to see anything, but I got the reference.
Right. Because, you know, good and well, people would have been complaining about whatever, you know, might possibly have been complaining about however portrayal of him anyway. So. But
exactly.
Yeah, but yes, so that is the thing, folks. Yeah, Jesus almost was actually in as opposed to being referenced. Black Panther 2's Namor actor body shamed by Marvel artists. This has been updated because I believe said artist has walked back statements or whatever the case may be. But apparently,
right, he took the post down. I did see it in its original form.
Yeah,
I did see it. So I'm glad that there's an update on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So former Mike Comics artist Mike Deodato Jr. lashed out at Black Panther Wakanda Forever star Tenoch Huerta. This is according to this article on social media in an unexpected bout of body shaming. In a now deleted Instagram post, Deodato criticized Huerta's physique by comparing an image of the actor from the film's trailer to his own body. Quote, "You can tell somebody screwed things up when the character from the movie looks in worse shape than the 60-year-old artist who drew him." End quote. So, and of course he got backlash from fans, and that post was taken down, as was said, and the story has been updated with Deodato's statement regarding the post. But I'm just going to put this up here. Okay, no, I'll say that. So, Risa made a joke about the appearance of a comic book character on screen. They got out of hand because of internet haters. That doesn't necessarily sound like an apology, but sure. So, he went on to basically say he goes on to clarify. I won't read the rest of it, but you can, if you're watching the video version, you can see it for yourself. And the article will be in the in the show notes. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was in poor taste, but also I was kind of like, wow, I still have a long way to go in my workout to be as cool as Mike Deodato. You know.
Oh, that's right, because he did, because as folks can see, which I probably shouldn't be showing, but folks can see
he's
a side by side.
He's in pretty good shape for 60.
Right, a side by side comparison that that this Twitter account put up. I hate even mentioning this account, but nevertheless, yeah.
All right.
Next up,
I was about to say, right,
Here we go.
Let's move on as fast as possible because we're getting into D23 news.
Yes.
So the first article we have in our D23 corner is an article that lists every Marvel and Lucasfilm trailer that Disney released. Now, bear in mind, Disney did not release everything they showed at D23.
That's right.
Including Marvel and Lucasfilm stuff. But these are the ones that have made it out into the public space at the behest of Disney, you know, in order to gain, you know, publicity and to gain traction for some of these projects. First up is Willow. I have to admit, I have never watched the original Willow. Have you?
Yeah, it's been a while. But I haven't seen it recently, put it that way.
Right. So this is a sequel to the 1988 film about a wizard who few believe in, yet who saves the world from an evil sorceress with the help of a baby, a sorceress turned goat, and swordsman, 2 brownies, and a princess. Really? I really like that little recap right there.
That's essentially. Yeah.
Willow premieres on Disney Plus on November 30th. So we don't have to go anywhere. We can watch this in the comfort of our own homes, folks.
And I want to say, I don't know if the movie is on the platform yet.
I think it is. I think I've seen it on Disney Plus.
Yes.
On the Plus.
Yeah, starring, and actually, you said Sorcerer's Turn Go. You shouldn't have been. Ah!
That's right.
I don't want to blow people's ears out, but you know. Because I could have taken it.
Grinder.
Yes, I could have taken out a slow
it
powder.
on Disney Plus. You know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So, next up is Star Wars Andor. I've actually not watched this trailer. I think I watched the first trailer. I've not watched this one, but I don't need to. It's going to come out in a week.
Yes.
September 21st on Disney Plus. So we will have Rogue One. Is it coming out on Wednesdays or Fridays?
I think that is a Wednesday.
So we will have 6 days away. So we will have some thoughts, very light spoilers because it will only have been out for a day when we talk about when we convene again next week. But ultimately, Star Wars Andor premieres September 21st. So, you know, if you're not excited, if you're not hyped already for more original Star Wars live action content, take a look at this trailer. I don't need to watch this, to be honest, because I'm going to watch Andor anyway.
Yeah, I watched it, and you know, just kind of confirms, like, yeah, it was kind of more of what you've seen in the first trailer, but there were some other things that was in there. So yeah, I'm more interested in this than I thought I would be. I mean, as a lover of Star Wars, that's one side, but you know, like, there are some of the side stuff that's been like that's good, but was it really necessary? Not to point out anything in particular, but this one looks like it's going to be different because it's going to be a little more gritty than what we're used to with Star Wars stuff. So I'm kind of interested in that. Anyway.
Well, yeah, in the vein of Rogue One.
Right, exactly. Which is this is
definitely
coming
in the vein of Rogue One, which is where, you know, this is a prequel to that.
Exactly. Oh, and also, yeah, that was like, I think so. There was rumor that this was the project that She-Hulk got out of the way of, because She-Hulk is still going on, but I don't know if there's any actual truth to that or not. Because I remember when they were talking.
I think there's going to be there was always going to be a little bit of crossover in terms of release dates.
Right, but to keep them from having to come out on the same day, sometimes they tend to do.
It makes no sense for them to do that. You know, they're competing against themselves. That makes no sense.
I agree. I absolutely positively agree. But nevertheless, it happened, or it potentially happened. Next up is Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. This is basically a Dave Filoni anthology series because it's in the Clone Wars. I have not watched this. This is in the Clone Wars vein. The Tales of the Jedi show includes episodes focusing on the training of Ahsoka Tano and the rise and possible fall of Count Dooku. All 6 episodes will start streaming on Disney Plus on October 26th, so we have a little bit more than a month left on that one. Next up is you should watch that trailer.
Oh, I'm sorry?
No, I should say you should watch that trailer.
I will. I just haven't gotten around to it. Things have been hectic.
Yeah.
Next up is The Mandalorian Season 3. We're getting another season. I'm sorry?
I said this one I didn't watch.
I've watched this one. The teaser trailer is light on plot, but shows the Mandalorian reunited with Grogu. We got that at the end of the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, I'm lying. I did watch this.
But that's spoiler.
Right. I did watch this. I'm lying. So.
Right. And plenty of action involving other Mandalorians like Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff. The Mandalorian returns for Season 3 in the not-too-distant future of February 2023.
Shout out to Mr. Science Theater.
It's going to be here so soon. So next up, I think... No, there's still a few more. My goodness. Yeah. Secret Invasion. Right? So this trailer is out there. I've watched this once. I'm probably going to need to watch it again, but it involves lots of appearances by characters we're familiar with that revolve around Sam Jackson's Nick Fury, including S.H.I.E.L.D. agents,
ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Government. Yeah, well, I mean, we know them as S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, as Roddykat mentioned, members of the United States Department of State. One Everett K. Ross. I was surprised to see that. I was like, oh, okay.
Same here.
Obviously, Rhodey is going to be making an appearance here because I believe he's in the trailer.
He is.
Olivia Colman, in a new role, pops up in the trailer. The six-part limited series is set to premiere sometime in 2023. Disney also finally announced that Rhodey, played by Don Cheadle, is finally getting his own long-rumored Disney Plus series, Armor Wars, that seemed to be a missing piece from the announcements during San Diego Comic-Con.
So before you go on, I was going to say, Rhodey was a surprise to me in this one, for some reason. I'm not sure why, but from what I'm understanding, potentially Armor Wars is going to come directly after this. But we won't know for sure until that.
I might have heard that. That's why I wasn't surprised.
Right, but I didn't. But his involvement in this is the surprise. But it kind of makes some sense, I guess, if certain things happen. Put it that way.
I mean, it's interesting that do we have an article about Cheadle's Marvel contract being up?
No.
Well, that came out this week. He revealed it this week.
Gotcha.
And I thought it was interesting simply because we saw Rhodey in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now he's going to be in Secret Invasion and then be in Armor War. So maybe that is why his contract is basically up.
Right.
Because he's already used up all those appearances that he was contractually obligated to make.
Right.
Next up is Werewolf by Night. So this was an interesting watch. So it was a black and white trailer, and it stars Gael Garcia Bernal as the lycanthropic protagonist Jack Russell, not a terrier. It also gives us a brief glimpse. I actually missed this the first time around, of Man-Thing.
Yeah.
But it does debut on Disney Plus on October 7th, just in time for Halloween.
Yeah, it was a kind of, as some people were saying, kind of a grindhouse look to it. So.
Right. In terms of another trailer, they did give a season peek for the second half of She-Hulk. You can watch that. You'll be able to see some of the things that they are teasing for the second half of the season. They also made some announcements that were not related to the trailer. Do you have other articles on this, or do you want me to cover this?
No, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So first up, there's not an official trailer for this movie, but Marvel revealed the cast for 2024's Thunderbolts movie. The film follows a squad of reformed supervillains. So reformed. It's not the Suicide Squad, but allegedly reformed supervillains, which will star David Harbour, who plays Red Guardian, Olga Kurylenko, who plays Taskmaster, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who plays the Contessa de la Fontaine. I love that this article calls her Fontaine. I'm like, no, it's the Contessa Allegra de la Fontaine. Come on. Florence Pugh, who plays Yelena Belova, Hannah John Carmen, who plays Ghost, Wyatt Russell, who plays Bougie, just bad U.S. agent, and Sebastian Stan is back playing Bucky Barnes. So he is apparently not going to feature in the next Captain America movie, because this is probably where
he might. Yeah, he might. So I think when William Bruce West was like, I really want to see what Winter Soldier gets into in the next Captain America for him to join the Thunderbolts. So I thought that was kind of funny. Also,
that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, but we don't know. Yeah, we don't know anything around whether that's one has to do anything with the other. So.
Right. And finally, Marvel Studios announced the release date for the next Fantastic Four movie, which is set to premiere on November 8th, 2024.
It's not a real date,
folks. What's that?
It's not a real date. 2024. What is even that?
So details about the cast are still non-existent, but we do know that Matt Shakman, who directed WandaVision, will serve as the director of this movie following John Watts' departure in April. Kevin Feige said we'll have to wait until next year's D23 to find out more.
Ooh. But yeah, that is what it is in a nutshell. Actually, I don't know why I have this. Oh, Okay, that's right. As a follow-up article to that, actually, you could have, I forgot, I should have told you to take in, that kind of had some tidbits that weren't about some of the stuff that wasn't talked about, which was, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, because you pretty much talked about the finer points of everything. In the Captain America, speaking of Captain America 4, we find out that Tim Blake Nelson is going to reprise his role as the leader. Well, excuse me, reprise his role, whether he becomes the leader in the Captain America New World Order, we'll see. And of course, Carl Lumbly is back as Isaiah Bradley, and Danny Ramirez is returning as Joaquin Torres. So, is the Tim Blake Nelson one coming back as from the Hulk movie? That was the one
that's
like,
the news,
right? Like, why that movie?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting that they would use a crossover villain for this movie,
right,
and not incorporate another, or kind of reinvigorate another member of the Cap Rogues Gallery for this.
right.
You know, Cap doesn't have the best Rogues Gallery in the world, but there's some stuff out there that could be repurposed or reinvigorated, or just introduced, you know, for Sam Wilson to take on.
Right.
You know, there's still some out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some of them are a little bit more on the supernatural side, like the Serpent Society. But in terms of Sam Wilson, Captain America, I'm not sure if he's really had a chance to develop his own Rogues Gallery yet.
Not really, no.
You know, from the few times that he's, you know, been in a solo book on his own, I don't think we have much of a record of his Rogues Gallery. Like I said, Steve Rogers doesn't have the biggest rogue. Obviously, he's got some really solid ones, you know, some long-standing ones that we've seen, but you know, ultimately, you know, I don't think Steve's is that strong when compared to other characters.
Right.
But I don't know if Sam has anything right now.
Right.
So, but I think there's some characters that they could have repurposed and not brought over the leader. But it's in a surprising place to bring the leader, because they don't want to introduce the leader probably in a Hulk movie, because that involves Universal Studios.
Right. Plus, it sounds like if She-Hulk is in the indication, they're taking them back to Sakaar. So maybe they are actually doing Planet Hulk if they're going to do that.
Possibly. And they'll introduce the character there to bring him back somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe we don't know.
It's interesting. I thought that was a really interesting development.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, huh, weird. I think the other tidbits in this other article is that Loki season 2 was talked about. It has a new cast member in one, Ki-Hui Kwan. I apologize for butchering your name, but some of us of a certain vintage knows him as one Short Round from the Indiana Jones and the Temple and the second Indiana Jones movie. I'm about to say Temple. That is Temple of Doom. Yeah. So, and also most recently, Everything Everywhere at Once. So.
Right. Those pictures are awesome.
Yeah. The one with him and Harrison Ford.
Yes, with Harrison Ford and Ki-Hui Kwan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And there's also another D23 picture with the cast of the Marvels.
Yes. Yes.
With Harrison Ford. Those are some incredible photos. You know, with the, you know, what's really heartwarming is seeing Iman Vellani and Brie Larson, you know, together interacting. You know, specifically them, because they're like literally holding each other up at one point. And Iman Vellani is like literally fangirling with her eyes closed in a group photo with, I forget the other actresses, one of them who is very visibly pregnant.
Teyana Paris, who played
is that, I was about to say, I did not recognize her, probably because she's got like that pregnancy weight on her face that I just didn't recognize her face.
Monica Rambeau.
Right. Yeah. She's the one, you know, she's the one in WandaVision, right? So I did not recognize her face. I felt terrible. I was like, is that her? I didn't go to look specifically for, you know, like pre-pregnancy photos.
Right.
But when I saw that photo, I was like, I think that's her, because the tall one's not her.
Right.
Right? There's a tall actress there. And I'm like, that's not her. I think it's got to be the pregnant one.
Right.
But it just didn't look, familiar to me because she's got a lot of, and I'm not taking shots here. It's a literal fact. She's got pregnancy weight.
Right. No, she looks good. Yeah. No, she looks good. Also, but did you see the picture of Iman Vellani and Harrison Ford?
Just the two of them?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I've seen the ones with the cast of the Marvels. I've not seen the ones where it's just the two of them.
Yeah, it was too cute. I had to see if I could find it. But it was too cute. But yeah, so there was that Loki season 2, and then we talked about Ironheart stuff. They had, I think they had a first look of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. There is a poster that is out there now. That showcases Shuri, Ramonda, and I believe Nakia, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, and then of course the aforementioned Marvel's stuff that with the cast was all there, and they had a nice little. There is a little piece of video of them kind of after whatever presentation, them hugging and jumping. That was also cute. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, I believe, was also there for Daredevil Born Again. And A.X.E also, the cast member was there. There was also Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania presentation, and Paul Rudd was there, Evangeline Lilly, and Jonathan Majors, who we know is playing Kang. But none of that video for anything that I just mentioned has shown up anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty much that, though. But yeah, so there was a lot going on at D23 this weekend, including some stuff we'll talk about coming up. And this next story also was a thing that wasn't even in that article. But go ahead.
Sure. So Captain America announced that it has cast Israeli hero Sabra, like the hummus, folks, like the hummus.
Pretty sure she had that first, but yes.
The movie will feature the MCU debut of the Israeli superhero Sabra. So the announcement came, as we said, at D23. Israeli actor Shira Haas will portray the hero. Okay.
So, Contest of Champions, win!
I mean, I think that's her first appearance, right?
That is absolutely her first appearance. But I know they're probably not going to do Contest of Champions in the MCU.
Actually, I was about to say, it says here in the article, though, created by writer Bill Mantlo and artist Al Buscema, Ruth Bott Saraf, aka Sabra, made her first appearance in a cameo in August 1980's Incredible Hulk 250 before properly debuting in Marvel in February 1981's Incredible Hulk 256.
Interesting.
She's a mutant with superhuman strength and the ability to transfer her life force to other people. She's also skilled in weaponry and hand-to-hand combat and can fly with the help of her anti-gravity wristbands. So I definitely remember her in Contest of Champions,
right.
But apparently she made her debut just a little while earlier. So,
okay.
Contest of Champions is definitely early 80s. So This is just prior to that.
Right. And probably if I had remembered the hot move or even going onto the wiki, that probably would have said something like this. But like you, I remember her from Contest of Champions and not Incredible Hulk, because I don't even think I was reading Hulk at that time. So, but there you go. Nevertheless, she's going to be in the MCU and she's going to debut in Captain America: New World Order.
Right. I was about to say I was really young at that point, so I don't remember much of the comics I was reading at that age.
Yeah, like I said, there's certain ones like that kind of impressed upon me as a
right, that are memorable.
Right.
Exactly.
Like Contest of Champions. Like I said, anytime there's something Contest of Champions related, I will always say something about it. That and Secret Wars and or a couple other things I won't mention.
Sure.
Rep Bill Foster. Anyway, next up.
Poor Bill Foster.
Yeah. Next up, I think that's you.
Oh, is it? I thought I did the Sabra one.
Okay, I'll do it then. Star Wars Rebels actor teases probable live-action crossover. And this is Star Wars.
I was about to say, I made the hummus joke.
Oh, yeah, you did make the hummus joke. Jim Cummings, prolific voice actor, but for some folks may know him as Hondo Ohnaka in Star Wars Rebels. Teases the possibility that he might play the actor again. I know for a fact, well, actually, technically that doesn't count because there's a video game that was just re-announced, but it was basically a newer version of said video game that he is in as Hondo Naka. Nevertheless, says he was asked whether he'll portray Hondo again either the second season of The Bad Batch or in a live-action project. He says he was asked during a panel at Dragon Con. He says probably yes and yes, he responded. But they haven't talked to him about it. Don't know why. I mean, yeah, I'm there. I ain't going nowhere. End quote. This is
Listen, unbelievably, the Hondo character remains a powerful presence in the Filoni verse.
right.
And, you know, the Filoni verse corner of the Star Wars universe. So, you know, he's even appeared, he's in the Galaxy's Edge, right?
Right, which is the affirmation, he's in actually within the video game was based off of Galaxy's Edge that he's also appeared in. So yeah, I believe his voice is in Galaxy's Edge, which I want to go to one day.
Right. So you know, it's, you know, I always have I've long had a soft spot for Hondo.
Yeah, same. Hondo's a great character. Even like it's weird because his character started out kind of serious and then they kind of lightened him up and made him kind of
in Rebels.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. So it's
because he aged, right? That's the thing. He aged in real time because he was in Clone Wars and then we find him again in Rebels.
Right. So, but yeah, so
they gave him some character evolution.
Yeah. All for the better, I guess.
Yep. Right.
But no,
I was about to say, I'll
up.
pick the next one.
Yeah.
Star Wars: The Acolyte adds After Yang's Jodie Turner-Smith. So the upcoming High Republic set Disney Plus show by Russian dolls Leslie Headland also stars Amandla Stenberg. So it seems that, you know, the star is Amandla Stenberg. Now actress Jodie Turner-Smith is reportedly joining the mix in an undisclosed role. So Turner-Smith is not a household name yet, but she's well on her way to that status. That, you know, she's recently appeared in the year's underrated sci-fi film After Yang, and co-starred with Nope's Daniel Kaluuya in the buzzed about 2019 drama Queen and Slim. She's also in the upcoming Adam Driver film White Noise and the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston sequel Murder Mystery 2. Okay.
I might be wrong about this part, but I want to say she was the one up for the part of Reva in Star Wars Rebels, but she had to bow out because of scheduling conflicts. But I might again be wrong about that. So, but nevertheless, looking forward to seeing her in this.
More, I was about to say, in a different Star Wars role.
Right. So, Star Wars Ahsoka, speaking of, reveals first look at Sabine Wren at D23 Expo. So, we already know Latasha Liu Bodizo is the live-action version of Sabine Wren. And, of course, D23, they had a bunch of folks out for various projects, including Ahsoka. It says... Oh, when speaking with The Hollywood Reporter about filming the series along Bordizzo, Ahsoka actress Rosario Dawson guessed it was just her birthday. We both had our birthdays on the project, and it's like we're having the best birthday present ever in real time, but it's also getting sad because it's almost over. Hopefully we'll get a sequel. Dawson crossed her fingers, I guess. So, yeah. And I guess there was also a probably familiar looking mural presented. If you are a fan of Star Wars Rebels, that was on stage at that said panel. So
right.
And if
like,
you're watching,
we don't have. I was about to say we don't have a face, you know, like a face, like a frontal shot.
Right.
But that shot it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what's in the article looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching the video version, you're seeing the picture that we were talking about, and you should watch the video sometimes. Next up.
All right. So speaking of that Ahsoka show, it has been revealed at D23 that the casting for the live action infamous Ezra Bridger has been made, according to the Hollywood. It's actually according to the Hollywood Reporter. I thought it was at D23. According to the Hollywood Reporter.
It was, but yeah.
Right. Eamon Esfandi will play Ezra Bridger in Ahsoka. He'll join Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine Wren, and Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. Mary Elizabeth Winstead will also play a role in the project, but it's not clear who she's going to play. So, as Fondy's credit, the actor playing Ezra Bridger include playing Sam in 2019's Austin Weird, Barry in 2021's King Richard, and Ismail in 2022's The Inspection. Still heretofore unknown to me, which means, hello, Korath. Where are you? Where are you, Korath?
Who?
Thank you.
So, if you're watching the video, you can see the picture of the actor alongside the character he's going to play. Not a bad look.
No, they got the schnoz right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
basically.
folks.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Also,
sorry, folks.
Slightly punchable. So, because
Yes, yes, yes. Because Ezra Bridger is definitely punchable.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Ezra is not a favorite character around this part. He had some growth near the end, but he was still snotty. He was he's still down on the tier list. So.
Oh, I mean, after like he does good by Ahsoka, right?
Sure.
But he definitely, leading up to some of those parts, he's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, he was plenty annoying from the get.
From jump, right?
Yes.
From jump. No, that's no joke. That's no joke. But like I said, he does right by Ahsoka a lot.
Yeah.
In Rebels,
Yeah.
It seems like that's the one character, that he did right by. Everyone else, he was kind of, because he lived with so many of the people on the Ghost for so long,
Mm-hmm.
that he rubbed all of them the wrong way at some point.
At some point, yeah. Shout out to Chopper, who always gave him shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's so yeah. And obviously this is taking place, after the end of Rebels, where I guess presumably they're going to be looking for him and Thrawn after what happened at the end of Rebels. So I'm still curious as to how that's going to play out. Next up, though, Star Wars Skeleton Crew reveals first look at Jude Law. This was another D23 reveal. There's an image, as you can see on the screen if you're watching the video version, of him with some weirdly familiar looking ball things. I don't know if that's like part of the set or if that's like some behind the scenes stuff, but it really reminds me of another old 80s space movie. Or those no, actually it's those things that came out, the if you remember Return of the Jedi, it's the thing that came out and asked 3PO what business he got it there. It's that thing. Or it's three of those things. That's what it looks like. But it also looks like something else from an old 80s movie. Either way, there's Jude Law, looking all Jude Law-ish, I guess. We still don't really know what exactly Skeleton Crew is about. But it says here that, of course, there's another Dave Filoni joint. Takes place following the events of Episode 7, 6, Return of the Jedi, which is the same period in which The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett are set. The project will center around a lost group of children, and was described as its announcement, as a galactic version of classic Amblin coming-of-age adventure films of the 80s, end quote. Otherwise, we still don't know that much more about that outside of that. And I think that's pretty much the most that we've gotten about it so far. So, next up,
announced at D23 2022, The Bad Batch is back with season 2 beginning on January 4th, 2023. Literally around the corner, folks. It's going to consist of 16 episodes. 2 episodes will drop together on its premiere day with weekly episodes to follow. I'm excited. I like The Bad Batch.
Will Roddykat catch up before season 2? Only time will tell.
We'll see if he watches that first or reads Hulk Future Imperfect.
Well, I can safely say one will probably happen before the other. Anyway,
it's 2 issues.
I know. So this next one, we're not gonna go through all of these because this is like slightly outside of the the comic book realm, but nevertheless, it's still stuff from Disney and Pixar. So yeah, there was some Disney and Pixar stuff that was announced. Hocus Pocus 2. There was actually Peter and Wendy. Mufasa. Excuse me. The Lion King. That was a project. Little Mermaid.
Say it again.
I know, right? The Little Mermaid. We got a first look at that, and stupid people on the internet was tripping about that.
Yeah, half fish people.
Right.
Be black.
Right. I know somebody's like, yeah, nobody complained when Angelina was green for Maleficent. So, but
I saw someone tweet out, with all the people that were thrown overboard during slavery, you think one of them?
Yes,
you think
I saw that tweet.
One of the people living under the sea wouldn't have gotten busy, and next thing you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I saw that tweet. Yep. So, Inside Out 2, Iwaju. I don't know if that's pronounced. That's the way it's pronounced, but it's a collaboration movie between Disney Animation and Pan African Animation Studio Kigali. It takes place in a fictional version of Lagos, Nigeria, and the movie is set to live on Disney Plus in 2023. That's there's a couple other things, but like there's Disney and Pixar stuff for the coming year. So next up.
All right, the new trailer for Black Adam has confirmed that the Justice League somehow remains an active team in the DC Extended Universe. In a blink and you'll miss it moment during Hawkman's virtual call with Argus officer Amanda Waller, who I was surprised to see in this trailer, the words Justice League appear on the call screen under the list of Waller's known affiliations. Okay.
What? Did somebody just look at the who's who and put it in the and put it in?
I mean, at the end of the day, it was just a screen reference. It was a reference on the screen, but at the same time, they did mention it during Peacemaker. Mentioned the Justice League during Peacemaker, so they're still around.
Yeah. And this picture that is being shown.
Wait, you watched Peacemaker with us, together, right?
Yeah, we watched it in real time.
We did get a cameo at the end, so of course they're still active. Right.
This picture that from this tweet doesn't really show a whole lot. Like you see, and Amanda Waller's name is just kind of cut up. Maybe if you click into it, it's a little bit more, but we don't need to necessarily go into that. Oh yeah, it does say Justice League right there, but like it's kind of cut off. So regardless, sure. I didn't watch that last Black Adam trailer, but speaking of though, Aldous Hodge is serious about getting Hawkman right for Black Adam. So yeah. As folks leverage his own Aldous Hodge. I know he's played in other stuff, but that's where I know him from. He's going to play Hawkman. He basically says here that during a press event where the studio unveiled the new trailer for the film, those in attendance got a chance to ask the stars of the film questions, and one asked the Hawkman actor how he was going to play the role differently. And he says, because there's a lot of history to figure out where to start with this character, which is true. And for me, for what we did, talking to John or Jamie, I don't know, about the direction on the narrative it really came down to what we know and love as fans, whatever that means. So we'll see how he's portrayed when Black Adam come out. And maybe he read some stuff. It doesn't really say here that I know of, but I guess he's committed to getting it right. But it's also Hawkman. There's really not much to get right or wrong, depending on
I was about to say there's been a few interpretations.
I know, but it still kind of comes back to kind of one or two things.
Exactly. Wings, mace.
Right. So. Next up.
Thanagarian cop or Thanagarian something else.
Exactly. It's going to be
human, so human.
Right.
There's only a couple.
Right. Complicated history with Shira from that maybe reincarnation or not.
Or not so much, right?
Right. So.
Oh my gosh. It's so scary how much we've, how much information we've garnered over the last, decade basically almost of doing the Comic Book Chronicles, folks.
Pretty much, and some of that came from Justice League the cartoon, so
that's true. That is so true. Justice League Unlimited and Justice League the cartoon. That's right. All right, next up, Blue Beetle star Susan Sarandon provided some new details on her villainous role in the upcoming film. So she told this to Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, so that's why I never heard about this, because I never watching that awful show and that moron who laughs at all of his own jokes. Man. I'm sorry if you like Jimmy Fallon, but yo, for real, shots fired at Jimmy Fallon.
I ain't got time to bleed.
I open up the minigun on him. All of it. I'd open up. Go John Wick on that moron. Anyway, folks, I do not like Jimmy Fallon. Come at me, yo. She says that, she's happy that the family of Jaime Reyes is Mexican, and the actors are all Mexican American. There's plenty of Spanish dialogue in the movie, so there will be subtitles. But with regard to her character as a villain, she represents the white military industrial complex. So she had a fabulous time, because for her, there's nothing better than being bad. Okay.
Yeah.
You know it. I'm sorry. That was a really old musical reference, folks.
She's 75? Wow.
Listen, good for her.
Yeah, really. She's good. Because apparently she also came out as bisexual recently, and I'm just reading something that says she's 75. But either way, yeah.
Oh, she's actually playing Victoria Cord, who was created specifically for the film, and the character shares the last name with Ted Cord, the second individual to hold the title of Blue Beetle. Right.
Which that info I'm pretty sure we've talked about before, so just didn't really have much more than that. Some sad news, though, and I know Agent 70 knew about this, but Paper Girls has been canceled at Amazon after one season, but will be shopped elsewhere.
Yeah, I tweeted about this. I was very disappointed to get this news, to hear about this. This is such a poor decision, but I'm glad that it's going to be shopped elsewhere, as Roddykat just mentioned.
Yeah, I still have yet to watch it, but I've heard nothing but good things from folks who have watched it. So
I recommend it, folks. Paper Girls is an enjoyable watch. I really hope they find a home for the show, because it's well written and it's well acted.
This feels like
and
a
what
Netflix.
More can you ask for?
Right. This feels like a Netflix thing, but who's to say at this point?
Netflix cancels things left and right, so it's hard to say.
Right.
So it's just a shame that Amazon decided to cancel this. It did not get, I can't, and I apologize for not. I want to say it was. Someone replied to my tweet, and it's a constant follower of ours. I can't remember offhand right now who it was. I think it was Von Glum.
Okay. Yeah.
Von Glum.
Von Glum. Formerly and still kind of known as Von Glum. Yes.
Right. I think that's who it was who said that Amazon failed to promote Paper Girls well, and I agreed with that. I definitely agree with that. Obviously, we were bombarded with Rings of Power stuff, but Paper Girls just, was very much under the radar. But I knew about it because we're a comic book chronicles we're a comic book podcast.
Right.
We're called the Comic Book Chronicles.
Right.
We've talked about the show coming up, and while Tim Dog 98, our co-host, was reading the book, I'd only read the first issue. I really enjoyed the show. So I definitely recommend it. It's still living on Amazon Prime right now, Prime Video.
Right.
So you should go and take a look at it, folks.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm putting it out here. I don't know if I have nothing to go on or whether this would actually happen, but I feel like Netflix feels like they could pick this up. I know that's usually the first place people look at, but if you think about stuff like Stranger Things being on there and whatnot, that's why I say that this would probably be a closer fit to something like that. So I don't know who's to say where it's going to end up, but hopefully it lands somewhere. It could be Hulu for all we know. Next up, though.
Yeah, next up, so the Quantum Leap reboot has debuted its first mind-boggling trailer. Raymond Lee's Dr. Ben Song makes an unauthorized leap into the past in the first official trailer for NBC's upcoming revival of Quantum Leap. So interestingly, this actually is set 30 years after the events of the 1989 series of the same name, and it actually, makes reference to that first series.
It's actually 2022. It's being set in, which was funny to me when I saw the trailer. So
There it is. Okay.
yeah, I mean it looks good. I guess it does kind of harken back to some of the stuff. Like obviously it's a little different because it's a different time and different cast and so I would definitely check it out. I think it's gonna be on Peacock though.
Oh, that sucks.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be exclusively on Peacock. I don't know if because but I know it's definitely it says it's going to be September 19th, which is actually a couple days from now on NBC. Right, with new episodes available to stream on Peacock the next week. So so it'll be on network TV. So if you got a DVR,
nice.
you can handle that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out. Hopefully, I kind of wonder if Bakla is gonna somehow pop up.
He's not. He's already come out and said he's not.
Oh, okay. What
It's a recent. I want to say I saw it on my social media feed today.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a bummer, but yeah.
Yeah, you'll find. I was about to say, unfortunately, I spoiled that article for next week because it came out today, and Roddykat sometimes doesn't pick up like the breaking news on the day of our show.
Yeah, stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's okay.
Nevertheless,
all right.
Anime Corner.
All right, here we go. Anime Corner.
Go for it. Sorry.
Oh no, I was about to say I did the Quantum Leap, so you're up next.
Okay. Well, fine. I'm just gonna give you this one. But A.X.E live action adaptation coming to Netflix. So it was a report from a reveal from the Hollywood Report, not a reporter. Yeah, you kind of so it must be a typo. Revealed that the star of the smash hit Lupin will be taking on the role of legendary samurai, and that would be. So basically, if you did not know, A.X.E was a basically an anime about a black samurai on Netflix, and now there's going to be a live action version of that anime, adaptation of the anime. Why? That's weird. Omar Sai or Omar C, from that Lupin live action thing that Netflix did, and a few other things. He's been around a couple of projects. Is going to be the main character of that, and some other people. Oh, Forrest Whitaker is executive producing, and some other people are involved with this. I've never watched that. I had been meaning to watch that anime, but I have not. So, curious that it's getting a live action adaptation. So, next up.
All right, so before I get into the next story in Anime Corner, I wanted to give a quick update on where I am in my anime journey, which began during the pandemic and has continued. I actually started watching The Way of the House Husband.
Nice.
Unbeknownst to me, it's actually on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought I told you.
I did not know that. I had to Google that. I was like, why is this not on Crunchyroll? I was like, husband. I typed that into the search bar. I'm like, what is going on? And then I went to Google. They were like, it's on Netflix, and you subscribe to this, so click this, and it'll open.
I'm sorry. I thought I told you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right.
But that's the beauty of anime nowadays, is that it's available on multiple streaming platforms.
Yep.
So that's where I am now. I've watched the first, it's a little different because the animation style is different and the storytelling style is different.
Right.
But it's enjoyable so far. I'm still pretty early on, but it's a very short, 10 episodes?
Something like that. First season or first part, I believe it is 10 episodes, because I think it's like 2 quote-unquote seasons.
Is it?
Yeah.
It has not come out yet, or?
No, I thought, well, let me rephrase that. I think there was supposed to be another part or another season supposed to be out by now. So
all right, so it's upcoming still.
No, it might be out, but I'm not sure, because I feel like I've seen. I'll check, but yeah, keep
all
going.
Right. I was about to say, but that's where I am right now, and I'll get on this story while Roddykat's looking that up. And I'm glad that I got this story, because this has actually come up in one of my group chats with one of my members of my anime advisory board. Chainsaw Man. When I saw the trailer, I was like, really? Chainsaw Man has announced the release date. Chainsaw Man's on the horizon, and the show promises to be one of the biggest anime drops in some time. The series has a hit manga underhand already, and Studio Mappa, and that's probably why, this particular member of my anime advisory board, was big on this because MAPPA has been behind some of the best anime adaptations in recent times. MAPPA stressed its adaptation of Tatsuki Fujimoto's story will be as authentic as possible. So now fans are just waiting for the anime to launch very soon this October. It's actually slated to go live on October 11th. So at this time, fans are not sure what time slot the series will have in Japan, but they can expect a late release. After all, MAPPA has assured everyone the anime will not be censored, and Chainsaw Man is gory enough to warrant a late night slot. So we'll see when it drops in America.
Yeah, but saying it's probably gonna be on Crunchyroll anyway. So whether they do anything with that, I don't know. I doubt it though, because
right. Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
That character is wild looking.
Yes.
When I saw that, when that trailer got dropped in the group chat, I was like, what? I don't know if I'll be into this, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. So going back to Way of the Husband, I guess it hasn't come out yet, but there is basically a live action version of Way of the Husband called The Ingenuity of the House Husband. That is also on Netflix.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah.
But that's live action.
Yeah. So I guess the other part hadn't dropped yet. I thought it had. That's weird. Anyway, but it's a good show regardless. The next Gundam movie is finally coming stateside this month. So Crunchyroll announced that it has acquired the release rights for English dubbed and subtitled versions of Mobile Suit Gundam, Kukuru's Done's Island. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Sorry. The latest film in the legendary mecha franchise. Of course, if you don't know Gundam by now, I don't know where you've been. Set during the events of the original Gundam's anime 1 Year War. The movie, directed by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, the character designer and animation director for the original Gundam, as well as the artist behind the manga adaptation of Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, follows Gundam pilot Amaru Ray and the crew of the White Base as they investigate the mysterious island of no return. To clear it of supposed enemy forces, only to encounter a group of children orphaned by the war and a strange man who is a former Xeon pilot. So weirdly, a little bit of iron-blooded orphans, but going back to the original series. So might end up checking that out, I'm sure. Next up,
Bleach: 1,000-Year Blood War has received complaints from other production companies due to its massive voice acting cast. So the upcoming series was at the center of complaints from other production studios because of its large cast. Many in-demand voice actors lent their talents to 1,000-Year Blood War, affecting the production of different anime series from other companies. Noriaki Sugiyama, voice of Uryu Ishida, noted a list of performers, revealed the number of episodes and when a person will appear. The most significant number of voice acting talent was 80, causing delays in other anime productions due to scheduling conflicts. So, there's a bunch of, actors that I'm not familiar with, but at the end of the day, if you go through this article, you'll see that they appear in some popular anime, including Demon Slayer, and other. That's the one I recognized, mostly. So ultimately, those are, competing for some of the same voice talent.
Right.
I have not watched Bleach yet. It is on my list, folks, but it's long. That's my understanding, correct?
It is, yes, fairly lengthy. It's not One Piece lengthy, but it's lengthy enough.
Right. I mean, One Piece is ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's not that.
That's definitely, even members of my advisory board are just like, ugh. They're even hesitant to get into it. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to jump into that. I tried Naruto and I was like, oh nope, I'm stopping that, and I'm gonna jump into something else. So I'll try to finish off The Way of the House Husband, and then take another short break and figure out what I'm going to watch next.
366.
I mean, by that point, I was about to say, by that point, I think maybe My Hero is going to come back out in October.
That's, yeah, back to true. And in fact, I believe this is coming out in October also, because I believe it's on, October 10th is when Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War was. So I told myself, like, I got like less than a month at this, or about a month, or less than a month at this point, to catch up with the rest of Bleach, which I'm looking here, 366 episodes, and I believe I was somewhere in the 70s.
Oof.
Yeah. So it can be done, but that's a challenge.
That's a pretty big task.
Yeah, it's a little heady, but
even with the way I've been, that's a big task.
I feel like I can do anime a little bit better than I do live action stuff, but at the same time, that's still a big.
I mean, are you watching the dub though? Is there a dub?
There is a dub. In fact,
if there's a dub, it'll go faster because it's in English. If you're reading subtitles, you might fall asleep trying to concentrate on subs.
Nah, I'm pretty good at that. Actually, I'm not sure which one I was watching now that I think about it. I might have been watching the dub, I think.
The only reason why I say that is that sometimes I'll nod off if I'm in the living room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. Yeah.
Right. I'm watching on the big screen. If I'm watching on a laptop or on an iPad, I tend to actually stay awake because, you're just more intent on what's right in front of you. But when you're watching the big screen and focused on the smaller text on the screen, you just sort of get tired.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just been my experience.
No, like I said,
I don't
happen.
have any vision, knock on wood. I don't have any vision issues, right? You just get tired.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like I said, it is fair because it's like it is a thing that does happen. So I'm not saying it doesn't. Right. But yeah, like I said, that's a heady endeavor, even where I am. But like I said, it's still no One Piece, thankfully. And now we are going to go over into the comic book news. DC just destroyed the Omniverse. Spoiler alerts. And this
where are you when we need you?
And this is spoilers coming from Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths #4, which I think maybe came out last week or something like that. I don't know. I'm not keeping up with that mess. So we don't know why, and I guess that is what this article is asking the question, like, why did they do it? And then it goes into how it happened and all that kind of good mess. But we're not going to go into that. Just know it happened, but now it's not. So, next up.
All right, so in a preview of an upcoming one-shot that's going to drop, dropped this week.
Mm-hmm.
Did not read it. Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League. Wonder Woman #1. It's written by Tini Howard and art and cover by Leila Del Duca. It premiered. It flourished a shiny. It displayed a shiny new set of armor for Wonder Woman Diana Prince, that is, in her very own one-shot. Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems to be a nod to the Golden Eagle armor that was adapted for live action in Wonder Woman 1984, movie we shall not speak of again.
Oh, that weird plot line. Next up, more.
I mean, seriously?
Why?
Anyway.
Actually, I'm going to rearrange something. You take that Nerf.
Why?
You'll see why when we get to it, because it's something I told you about earlier.
I literally just asked.
Why?
Okay, so you want me to take the Nerf one first?
Take the Nerf one, yeah.
All right, so Nerf sets phasers to foam to celebrate the Star Trek Next Generation's 35th birthday. 35!
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm tired again!
Because...
Boy, I'm getting too old for this.
So, Hasbro Pulse is releasing a limited edition Nerf rifle based on Star Trek The Next Generation's phasers to commemorate the show's 35th anniversary. Good God! So there are pre-order solicitations on Hasbro Pulse. The fireable foam will manifest as a set titled Star Trek Starfleet Type 3 and Type 2 phaser blasters. Goodness gracious. So I'm sure Roddykat is scrolling through this article, but the big thing you need to see is that promo image of the two weapons in Nerf form.
And here's the best part about it. Like, I kind of want that rifle. The phaser, not so much, but the rifle. It's basically the rifle from First Contact, where Picard's like, the line must be drawn here, and then he bangs the thing up against the glass. It's basically that rifle. I kind of want it.
Okay. Man, I don't remember that, but okay.
I do. Because that scene just was like, okay, Picard just spazzed out. Oh, was it First Contact? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. It was First Contact because Alfred Woodard was in it. Never mind. Either way, and that's who he was talking to when that scene happened.
Okay, so what order are you going in now?
Okay, so I'm taking the one before that, and then I'm going to get the rest of this because it's all video game news, or the next 4.
Okay, please, thank you.
Yes, which is what I told you earlier. So, Mortal Kombat creator asks fans if they want a Marvel versus DC game.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I know, because let's face it, we know people want it. What's the hold up? Marvel and DC. Exactly. So, and I've seen the scuttlebutt about this online. I even saw the poll and put my 2 cents on the poll from Mr. Boone. And apparently it looks like, which I don't even know why this was a thing, but as of this screenshot, 40% is in favor of a Marvel versus DC game, which followed by another Mortal Kombat and another Injustice, which I wouldn't mind another Injustice game either, or even a Marvel game is there, but that's last on the list. Like, Marvel versus DC is a fighting game that people have been wanting probably since that DC versus Mortal Kombat. Probably even when NBC actually first started coming out. Who knows? Whether we're ever going to get it, hell will probably freeze over. But nevertheless, that poll is still out there, or might still be out there. And a lot of people have voted for it because, of course, they do. Of course that happened. Anyway, Evil Wesley Crusher is coming to Star Trek MMO. So, let's see. Wesley Crusher returns to the Star Trek universe in an evil Mirrorverse form next week. Well, probably by now. Another thing, right? Because this is a couple days old, or a couple of weeks old at this point. In Star Trek Online, which is a good game if you like MMOs and Star Trek. It's great. I love that game. But anyway, Will Wheaton will reprise his role, but this time he's going to be Emperor Wesley Crusher and as the leader of the Mirror Universe Terran Empire in the game. Which, yes, that is a thing, of course, because it's Star Trek. So, let's see. Emperor Wesley Crusher seemingly retains the godlike powers of the prime Star Trek universe's Wesley, which were given to him by the Traveler, if you remember that episode of TNG. And let's see, Star Trek Ascension, which is the expansion that he's going to be in, has launched on September 13th. So it's out there for you if you are wanting to check that out. Next up, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is getting another 30 characters, which I'm sure this news is probably going to be in another article that's about to come up. But nevertheless, there it is. I won't go through all of the characters, but it's basically characters from Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Rogue One, to name a few. All right, preview cards for the first cards for Lorcana, Disney's answer to Magic the Gathering, are spectacular according to this article. So we talked about that Disney Lorcana game when it was announced right before the D23, and apparently they had some preview cards that was at D23, and I think some people got some of them, now that I think about it, which made me upset that I wasn't at D23 for once. Nevertheless, the official name of the first set of cards due out in the fall of 2023 is called Disney Lorcana, the First Chapter. And it says here that designers tell Polygon that players will take on the role of Illumineers, bringing to life glimmers of classic Disney characters to battle on the table. There were 7 cards shown for different characters. And there's special cards and mechanics shown on the card. And like I said, I think people got a set of them. If you're watching the video version of these of the show. You can see the cards in question, 6 of them, I guess. Yeah, of them, and who is represented on the cards. Oh wait, those are close-up looks of them. But yeah, nevertheless, those are the first looks. I'm pretty sure if you're a card game person, you've probably seen that stuff by now. And now, folks, Disney and Marvel Games Showcase number 22, everything that was announced. I'm not going to go through everything on this list, but the stuff that is pretty much germane to us is that there is a game featuring, a team up between Captain America and the Black Panther, made by Skydance New Media, and it is a story that is set in World War II. Looks like it's got 4 characters, so it's probably T'Chaka, Steve Rogers, Captain America. I'm not sure who this soldier is, and looks like Dora Milaje. I don't think we have any names in here, but basically that was shown at announced at D23. Let's see, Marvel's Midnight Sun get a release date, and Switch version is TBD, but who cares about the Switch version? Let's see. It says December 2nd, 2022 is the release date for Marvel's Midnight Suns video game. And looks like there's going to be prequel shorts beginning October 31st that kind of run into the game and give you the backstory on the game. Tron Identity is a new visual novel adventure from Mike Bithell Games, who, if you're in video game space, is a noted video game developer. Hopefully this is better than that John Wick game that his company did. Nevertheless, so yeah, there's going to be a new Tron game. It's a visual novel, which is weird. It says follows Query, a detective program tasked with solving the mystery of an unprecedented crime. Won't be out until 2023, so it'll be some time for that. There's a Marvel World of Heroes, which is a new AR game in the vein of Pokemon Go, by the same developer. Let's see. It says it will let fans create their own superhero and team up with their favorite Marvel characters in the real world. It says those who are interested can pre-register now at marvelworldofheroes.com ahead of its global launch in 2023. Marvel Snap is getting a release date, which I just got something on that relatively recent about pre-registering on it. Marvel Snap is pretty much the card game, kind of like Hearthstone and Magic, but a little bit simpler. October 18th, 2022 is going to be the release date of that, and you can pre-register for that right now. I know that people have been running that. Let's see. So Aliens Dark Descent, Gargoyles Remaster video games is going to come out on Modern Costume. That Disney Dreamlight game is going to add a Toy Story Realm. Everything else in here is like, Disney Speedstorm, which is the Mario Kart. Marvel Strike Force is to add Red Hulk. Everything else is like Disney stuff, other Disney stuff, and to the like. So if you want to check out what some of the other stuff is, you can go to the article in the show notes. Next up, now you can get back in here, sir.
Now I can unmute. Unmute. Hot Toys announced a new Valkyrie figure based on the character's representation in Thor: Love and Thunder. So the 1/6 scale figure is ready to join Thor and Mighty Thor to defend the Asgardian people, as accessories include her Dragon Fang sword, a pair of daggers, a Thunderbolt, spoiler alert, a portable speaker, and an attachable Korg face sculpture, again another spoiler. You can pre-order your Valkyrie figure for $270 from Sideshow Now.
Again, it's a Hot Toys. It's going to be wildly detailed and articulate, and they command the big bucks for said things.
Yep, pretty much.
If you want to pay it, go for it. I like the figure. The figure looks great, but that's a lot of money.
Listen, there are some people who will pay that
Oh,
It's not
absolutely.
a cup of tea.
Right. Like I said, I would like the figure. I'm just not going. That's a lot. Shout out to Tim Dog for this next story. Dr. Doom gets his own Marvel podcast series starring Dylan Baker. And I think that would be a who for me because I don't know who that is.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
I don't know it either. So here we go.
Who?
So, yeah, Marvel Wastelanders podcast series is continue with a new show headlined by Dr. Doom. Monday, September 12th, which is, I guess, it's already out, so you can go check it out, which was the launch date for Marvel's Wastelanders Doom from Marvel Entertainment Series XM, of course, if you did not know that already. It's the 5th installment of that series. We won't go through the rest of those. Actor Dylan Baker returns to voice Dr. Doom after playing the villain in Marvel's Wastelanders Star-Lord. Mark Waid and James Kim are the co-writers on Marvel's Wastelanders Doom. And then it just goes on with the people behind the scenes on that. Let's see. After 30 years of imprisonment, Dr. Doom has freed himself and seeks revenge on the former allies who portrayed him on the day the villains won. To achieve this, he teams up with Valeria Richards, the daughter of his most hated enemy. Whose side is she on, really? Which, you know, hey, we all know Valeria has always had a love of Dr. Doom, Uncle Doom. So that's not a big surprise. But anyway, it goes on from there. But by now, if you're interested in that, you will probably have checked it out. Next up.
So at D23, Marvel celebrated Spider-Man's 60th anniversary by offering 2 special variant covers for the recently published Amazing Fantasy number 1000, and they were given to attendees of the Marvel Comics celebrating 60 years of Amazing Spider-Man panel. And the 2 covers, one was by Humberto Ramos.
Mm-hmm. I think both of them are.
And, are they both?
I thought so. I watched that panel and I thought they said both of them were, but I might be slightly wrong about that. But the one that's being shown in this picture is definitely Humberto Ramos.
Right. I don't know if because I definitely recognize that.
Right.
Yeah, they might both be.
Yeah.
You know, the other one's not as clear as the first one because the other one has mostly Disney characters in it.
Right.
But I guess based on the depiction of Spidey in that, I think you're probably right. I think it probably is also Humberto Ramos.
Right, because like I said, I remember watching that panel. As a matter of fact, that panel is still out there on YouTube if you want to check it out, and I think I have a link to it in the show notes, if not mistaken. And they shouted out Humberto Ramos, who was there at the panel. It was Nick Lowe. Cool. It was Nick Lowe and C.B. Cebulski basically talking Spider-Man, just going through it. And Nick Lowe has a lot of energy apparently, because he was talking a good bit. So, but yeah, if you're interested in that, that's out there. Next up, though.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna try to take a look at that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mayor Luke Cage wants New York City to work with villains, and this is
this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is this week's Daredevil.
So yeah,
I didn't talk about this, but yeah, that's part of the story.
So yeah, Agent 70 already talked about this issue, so we won't really go too far into this, but apparently that is a thing now.
Right. This is what I was referring to when I said Daredevil kind of getting some FaceTime with his New York issues that have happened during Zdarsky's run on the book, in the previous volume before going off to deal with Elektra and the Hand. Mm-hmm. Or dealing with the Fist, that is, the counter group to the Hand.
Gotcha. Who is the Stromwyn siblings? Is that something new to...
Devil's Reign.
Okay.
Devil's Reign and the Daredevil run preceding it. They're kind of like they're basically like really rich people in New York City that were kind of pushing Wilson Fisk around, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Because I'm about to say they're like the Struckers, but I guess not. And
no, they're really not nice rich people.
Gotcha. So like the Struckers,
well, I don't believe they had powers.
Right, or without the racism, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I think there's some racism in there too, but definitely not the powers.
Gotcha.
From what I remember, I mean, listen, I'm gonna type them into Google and be like, oh look, they had superpowers at one point, but I don't think so.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
All right, next up. Alex Ross's Black Panther number 12 cover shows T'Challa being apparently expelled from the Avengers So this is just a preview of issue number 12 as part of the solicitation for Black Panther number 12. So this book is out in December at some point, and it looks like Cap is telling T'Challa to bounce, and the other kind of main Avengers group are just kind of watching him walk away. They do mention in this article that Tim Dog 98 mentions in this article that Cap had mentioned something to T'Challa in the recent Black Panther with that weird, the first book coming off of that Civil War story. Cap himself mentions to T'Challa maybe he's not ready to jump right back into the saddle as chairman of the Avengers.
Yeah, I feel like we may not have talked about that particular chairperson. Yeah, but we might not, because we talked about that book last week, but I don't remember if we talked specifically about that particular part of it though, which was at the beginning of the book. Because that.
But good job on at Tim Dog 98 on that one.
Yeah,
reminding us of that.
So yeah, that's a thing. Which, given this current crazy storyline, which we already talked about, go back to last week's episode. Why go through all of that to do this if that's the case? But I guess we'll find out. So, new ongoing Scarlet Witch comic series casts a spell, to unlock Wanda Maximoff's full potential. So Scarlet Witch will return in January with a brand new ongoing solo series. A groundbreaking new chapter for one of Marvel Comics' most beloved characters. Scarlet Witch will be written by Steve Orlando, known for his thrilling current run of Marauders and last year's Darkhold. I don't know that Darkhold. Okay, anyway. And drawn by Sarah Pacelli, so the art's going to be good. I mean, Steve Orlando's alright. I'm not saying he's not a good writer, but that Darkhold thing was weird. Anyway, together these two comic powerhouses will open the door to a new era of adventures, mysteries, and quests that only a hero with Wanda Maximoff's breathtaking and unmatched mystical abilities are fit for. If it wasn't apparent, this is coming from Marvel.com. That's why the flowery language.
Right.
So there's that. And then it goes on to talk about the whole trial of the X-Men, trial of Magneto thing, and talking with and a couple of sound bites from Orlando. Let's see, Scarlet Witch number 1, which you can see the cover here. It's a nice cover, by the way. Goes on sale. The cover's by Russell Dowderman, so that makes sense. Goes on sale January 4th, 2023. So not that far away. Next up.
Ooh, I get a fun story.
And I have an errata after you finish for this, which you'll...
Really?
Yes, and you'll pretty much go over it, but go for it.
All right, so IDW Publishing's G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero title, will come to its conclusion with number 300 this November, as the publisher's license for the G.I. Joe franchise ends. But the venerable title is going out in style with the original G.I. Joe comic creator and longtime writer Larry Hama, shout out to Larry Hama, penning a special issue that also boasts a cover from artist Jamie Sullivan, which IDW Publishing claims will set a world record for the most characters depicted on a single comic book cover, clocking in at over 300 by IDW's count. I see the errata at the end.
No, not that. No. This is a personal errata, but.
Oh, okay. Because apparently, not to be sticklers, we're guessing that the record for the most characters depicted on a single monthly comic book cover, Alex Ross and George Perez's cover for the anniversary collection of Crisis on Infinite Earths, features 562 characters. Shout out, rest in peace to one of my artistic heroes, George Perez,
and a lot of people's.
But yes, but. I have to give props where props are due.
Yes.
This cover by Jamie Sullivan for G.I. Joe number 300 is pretty good.
It's pretty
and I
nice.
really appreciate... Oh, I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I really appreciate that the versions of the characters that are depicted in the bottom right, the Generation 1... right? The Generation 1 G.I. Joes, right? Because they've all gone through a million permutations to sell action figures.
Yes.
Right? But the Generation 1, that is the term that Transformers fans know and love. The Generation 1 G.I. Joe characters are depicted on the bottom right of the cover, and I genuinely, sincerely appreciate that.
And they also take note. I've also noted that Spirit, Timber, and was it Junkyard or Mutt? I always get those confused. Are all at the top. Oh, basically all of the animals are up at the top.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that cat though. Whose cat is that? In the
No. The hawk is Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. I always get Freedom and Spirit. Yeah, Spirit is the person.
It's
Freedom
the
is the
character,
yes.
right.
I always get them and Junkyard and Mutt always confused. I don't know why.
Yeah, Mutt is the whatchamacallit.
Mutt is the human, right?
Is the human,
Right. Yeah, and Junkyard is. So I was right about that part. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, like if you're watching the video version, you can see this nice big ass sprawling.
It's a nice cover, and
Now-
I can immediately see exactly where my G.I. Joe fandom stopped. Right, in terms of my comic book collecting, my action figure collecting, I see exactly where it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even from the villains, it's almost like the bottom 4 or 5 tiers are the ones that I know best because that's where my collecting kind of stopped.
Mhm.
And then I recognize characters towards the top because they are comic book villains,
Right.
like the October Guard.
Right. Which they should.
I recognize the October Guard because I'm like, wait a second, those those are like early G.I. Joe villains / allies. Sometimes they sometimes teamed up. Sometimes they were it's the Cold War, folks.
Right.
Cold War era.
Why are there bondage people? You know what? Never mind.
Ooh, where?
Top left.
Top left. Oh, I have no idea.
Like, what is going on there?
Yo, I have no idea. That is not an era of G.I. Joe that I'm familiar with. I think that's Wade Collins on the top left, that Cobra Trooper in the red.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, I don't know.
Oh wait, do they have the? So the only thing I take kind of it's not really an issue, but it's like wait, the color of the Crimson Twins' hair. I don't remember it being that color. Because I thought they were dark haired.
I'm looking for them. Where are they? Oh, I see. Yeah, they were dark haired.
Yeah. Outside of that, where's the other Snake Eyes? I guess I don't.
The female one?
Yes.
I have no idea.
I want to say, I think, so, okay, let me just go ahead and put my, and get this out of the way, get my error out of it. So, I talked about G.I. Joe 297, last week, and I thought it was the end of the run, but apparently it runs in 300. That was the errata, because I was like, well, wait, because for some strange reason, I read something that I thought it said that this was, that 297 was the end book, and I probably misread something quite possibly. So I was under the impression of that was the last edge of the book. And I was like, well, they ended on the cliff of it. In fact, I have said on this show that it's like it ends on the cliffhanger. That's weird. Like, why would that happen? But it's not. It's got 3 more issues to go. So there is that. Still confused about the story because I hadn't been keeping up with it. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Nevertheless, anyway, take one.
I definitely appreciate the bottom half of the of this image. Just because I recognize so many of those characters, they're near and dear to me as an action figure, collector, as a G.I. Joe collector, as a G.I. Joe fan of the comics and the cartoon. So, I appreciate seeing this. I'm like, oh, that's Steeler down there. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. That's Breaker in the bottom right. That's pretty awesome.
Right. They got Hawk down there, and yeah. So
they even have Cutter in there,
yep.
the pilot of the whale hovercraft.
Mm-hmm. So once you get past the Dreadnoks, which is like almost halfway in, see Lifeline, Leatherneck. Yep. There's Big Lob, Sergeant
Big
Slaughter.
Bob. That was from the movie.
Yep. From Sergeant Slaughter right next to him, and those folks from that Jones, Low Light.
Yeah, like once you go above that line,
Exactly.
the Leatherneck and Sarge and Beachhead and Lifeline and Wetsuit and Dial Tone. Yeah, once you go above that, you lose me.
Basically,
I think that's the Red Ninja. I think is Jinx. Other than
that is
I'm
Jinx.
not I'm not sure about anybody above that line. Really. Maybe the pilot of the Shark, the submersible submarine on the far right. I forget his name. That looks like him. But other than that, I'm really unfamiliar with anyone above that.
Wait, I thought that was.
Oh, that baseball-looking guy. I think his name is Hardball. I remember. I think I bought that just for shits and giggles, folks. I was a lot older then. I was just like, oh, this character looks really weird. The gun looks really weird. I'm just gonna buy this.
Right.
But anyway, folks, we are tarrying here a little too long.
Yeah, we got one more.
We're enjoying the art. We have one more article left.
Yep.
One story left.
I believe this is. Go for it. Anyway, just take it anyway. I don't care. Yeah.
Oh, you want me to take it?
Yeah,
All right. I'm not saying you can make me open this one after I talked about all this G.I. Joe stuff. All right. Last story, folks. Joshua Williamson has joined Substack with a new Nail Biter series. So his super scary newsletter will feature new work and behind-the-scenes updates. So Joshua Williamson is currently orchestrating the ongoing Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths event at DC, and he has joined a bunch of his comic book colleagues and started a newsletter on Substack. So the Super Scary newsletter will feature comic book previews, exclusive swag, and more, starting with the announcement of a Nail Biter anthology series, which will also be self-published via Substack. Let's see if there is a fee for subscribing. Well, eventually, he said, Tales from the Nail Biter and Other Terrifying Stories will be available in a trade paperback collection. That's eventually. In the meantime, Image will continue to print Nail Biter and Nail Biter Returns. I'm not familiar with these books. Okay.
I've heard of Nail Biter, but hey, I've never read it.
Right. Nail Biter apparently ran for 30 issues and had a sequel series, Nail Biter Returns, in 2020.
Right.
Oh, the first 500. So there are two tiers apparently. There's the first 500 subscribers who select the $70 or $250 yearly tiers, $250 yearly tiers for the Super Scary newsletter will also receive a special Nail Biter fan club box with a signed copy of Nail Biter Volume 1, collectible card sets, an enamel pin, and a t-shirt. Okay, good luck with that, folks. I really haven't jumped on the Substack bandwagon. I don't know about yourself, Roddykat.
Yeah, neither. I was about to ask you if you did, but you just asked my question. So, nah, I have not, actually. So, but that, folks, is the end of the news. We got one more ad read, please.
Our last ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. So place your first order with $30 off. And to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
All right, folks. I know this was a long one, but it was a lot of D23 stuff to get through, so we kind of had to do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of it.
Yeah, so now that we got that out of the way, we can go back to our regularly scheduled bit of nonsense next week.
I mean, we're going to have She-Hulk and Andor to talk about next week.
This is true.
So we'll try to keep it as brief as possible because, one, She-Hulk is still coming out the day of our recording. So we will keep it, hopefully as brief and as light as we have been to avoid spoilers. Maybe not so much with Andor because it will have been a day out.
Well,
be out. We'll have been out the day before, that is.
We'll still be kind of light with it, though.
Of course.
Yeah. Nevertheless, folks, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News on Twitter. You can find me at CPCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron also on Twitter is where you can find Tim. You can also find him at The Kliq Nation on Twitter. You can also find him at thekliqnation.com, but you can definitely find him, if you have seen and heard, over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here show on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
By the way, Cold Slither, the G.I. Joe episode, which which network is named after, I believe is out there on the Hasbro channel, so you should definitely go check that out if you are curious as to where that name came from. But you can also find this here podcast on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. I should find that episode of Cold Slither where they talked over it.
Right. And make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us all the 5-star reviews, folks. That goes for both video and audio forms.
Yeah. You can also find this recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most times on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation. Kliq Nation. That's TheKliqNation. And you can also find us at twitch.tv/Comic Chronicles, where one day we're going to actually start recording streaming some other stuff. You have my word on that. That's it, folks. We will see you all same time next week, same bad time, same bad channel. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.